I'm bringing the meeting to order. Does anybody have anything for closed session? Any agenda, anybody to speak? If not, we will adjourn to closed session. Thank you. Thanks for joining. Tonight to notice two administrators who are currently in temporary positions. This notification is based on the March 15th timeline. Employee number 084281 and 222992. So I'd like to welcome you to our board meeting tonight and let you know that Mr. Hunt will be absent tonight. He's under the weather, and we are wishing him to get a speedy recovery. I will also like to mention that we have some CTE students job shadowing with the communications team. Joey Edvin Hernandez from, is it Poly? From Poly. Thank you. Nice to have you. And now we will have the color guard presentation of the flag. The color guard presentation will be provided by the Marine Corps Junior Reserve Officers Training Corps from Ramona High School under the direction of Mr. Bill Southern.
I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Mr. Hodnett will now talk to us about our Pledge of Allegiance. Addison Sharp.
Thank you. I'd like to introduce to you all a remarkable sixth grade Kennedy night, Addison Sharp. Addison has attended JFK since kindergarten and has been elected to the Student Council for the past 2 years. This year, she is currently serving as the Student Council President. Her winning smile and positive attitude make her a pleasure to be around. Her outstanding work ethic, obvious love of learning, make her a true example of a scholar in our community. Thank you, Addison.
Addison, we have a certificate for you, and we'll want to get a picture. Thank you very much. And our group performance tonight for the Board of Education will be provided by the Riverside Arts Academy Music Project under the direction of Dr. Jean Moon, Music Director.
Good evening. My name is Haley Dunn.
Wait a minute, it's not on. Could I have the mic on? Try it now.
Hello? Is it not on?
It's not on.
Still not on.
Okay.
Yeah. Good evening. My name is Haley Dunn. I'm an 8th grader at University Heights Middle School. The group before you is the Riverside Arts Academy Music Project Concert Band. Our directors are Mr. Mario Gutierrez and Mr. Ryan Gross. In our band, we have students from all over RUSD and Alfred Unified, including students from Uni, Central, Gage, Miller, Pachapa, Highgrove, Beatty, Mountain View, STEM, Alcott, Longfellow, Jefferson, and Magnolia. Tonight we are playing Plaza de Toros by Michael Story and Shut Up and Dance, arranged by Michael Story. Here is the Ramp Concert Band.
you very much to the Riverside Arts Academy. That's wonderful. Thank you. And now we're going to have some reports by our high school representatives. We're going to start tonight with Steve Parson from John W. North High School. He's not here? Okay. No? I'm sorry. Oh, Freddie is going to do it. Oh, I'm sorry.
No, it's all fine. I was just going to save it for my board comment.
Okay, we'll do. Very good. Olivia O'Connor from Riverside Poly.
Good evening, Ms. Allaby, Dr. Hanson, and members of the board. I would like to once again thank you for granting me the ability to present to you tonight on behalf of Riverside Poly High School. Since we last met, the students at Riverside Poly have been able to demonstrate their hard work across several different disciplines, and because of this, they have had some major accomplishments. Our boys basketball team had a tremendous playoff season, and they finished runner-up at the CIF Division I Finals at Azusa Pacific University. Our cheer and dance teams were also able to showcase their talents and represent Riverside as they performed for the PAC Stadium. Our basketball team then moved on to the state tournament, where they officially finished out their season in a record 6 overtime game. Throughout the entirety of their season, but especially the playoffs, we had a large amount of student turnout that we have never been able to achieve before. This is a strong indicator that the work we have been doing to reunite and revitalize our school culture is headed for the right path of success. Our arts groups have also been very successful in their recent endeavors. Our theater just closed out a successful production of Shakesplosion, where they modernized and added a comedic twist to Shakespeare's work. Our choir group was also able to showcase their top-notch talent as they were able to perform at Carnegie Hall in New York. Our mock trial team also has been very successful. They just won their 19th county championship and will be competing at the state tournament next week. They competed against some of the best teams in all of Riverside County, many of which are from right here in Riverside Unified, including Arlington, North, and King. Our mock trial hopes to continue their success as they represent both RUSD and Riverside County at the state championship in Los Angeles. Lastly, Poly is having our prom this Saturday at the Angel Stadium Diamond Club. Already, we have sold over 600 tickets, and we expect this number to continue to rise. Throughout the entire course of the school year, we have seen an overall increase in all of our event attendance, but especially our dances. We hope to continue this increased enthusiasm as we move into the last few months of the school year, and as we make preparations for our WASC visit that will be happening next week. And finally, the fifth tenet of our PRIDE acronym is extraordinary, and our students have been working very hard to exemplify this degree of excellence in all that they will do and all that they have done. Thank you. If you have any questions, I would be happy to answer.
Thank you, Olivia. Does anyone have any questions for her? No? Thank you so much.
Thank you.
Now we have Adriana Geronimo from Ramona High School.
Good morning, Board President, Ms. Allaby, Superintendent, Dr. Hanson, and esteemed members of the board. I'm honored to be here with you all again and to be able to report on all the wonderful things happening at Ramona High School. Our visual and performing arts program has truly been outdoing itself. Last week, we had our Festival of Arts. This is a showcase that highlights all the sectors of our VAPA program, including art of food, ceramics, dance, theater, piano, and so much more. I would like to congratulate all the students for their hard work and dedication to the program. As the showcase went beautifully, we saw a great turnout and cannot wait to see what they do next year. Not only that, but on March 5th, we had our second annual Vidance Showcase. This is a collaboration with our film and digital media students in RAM TV. They work together to make a performance with the video that goes in hand with their dance. I'd like to thank Mr. Nottingham and Ms. Townsend for putting this together. These are just some of the performances that have been going on in VAPA, but there is so much more. They never fail to impress Ramona with their creativity and ideas. As we head into March, we go into college acceptance season. Our AVID program has been a tremendous help with our first-generation students, as it can be hard to navigate the college route. We've had lessons and planning dates on how to review our award letters. Because of them, we all know how to not be in debt. Speaking of which, about 3 days ago, the selectants of the Michael and Susan Dell Foundation announced their Dell Scholars. This is a $20,000 scholarship along with the laptop and $2,000 to cover the students' book expenses. We had two students from Ramona selected as Dell Scholars. There are only 500 selected worldwide. Those students are Kayla Torres and myself, Adriana Geronimo. Thank you. Also, about 2 weeks ago, Mayor RUSD Bailey announced his nominees for the 25 most inspirational students. I'm proud to say that Ramona had the most students selected out of all the RUSD campuses. Today, they selected their students. I'm not sure how many were selected from Ramona, but I do know that I was also selected as one of the top 25 most remarkable students. That is all that I have for you today. I'm open for questions. Thank you.
Boy, this is your month, isn't it, Adriana?
Yeah.
I'll tell you.
Thank you.
Do we have any questions for Adriana? Congratulations. Congratulations. And Bill Miracle from the Riverside STEM Academy.
Mrs. Alavi, Dr. Hanson, and esteemed members of the board, thank you for having me here this evening to represent the Riverside STEM Academy. I'm happy to report that our STEM campus has been very active over the past 2 months, and I'm excited to share some of our activities and achievements. On February 1st, STEM High hosted its annual Midwinter Dance. The dance was held at the beautiful Loft 84 venue in downtown Riverside. Our theme for this year was Yule Ball, which is a winter theme from the Harry Potter movies. The dance's attendance was one of the highest it's ever been, and I'm happy to report that people enjoyed the event and are excited about our next dance. Each year, the National PTA's National Humanities Competition, named Reflections, gives students an opportunity to create a work of art that was inspired by a theme. The theme for this year was Look Within. Students were challenged to write a story or poem, draw or paint a picture, compose a piece of music, take a photograph, choreograph a dance, or make a film inspired by this theme. And entries were judged anonymously by a panel of judges and scored based on a rubric provided by the National PTA. Our school had 3 winners in the photography category, 4 winners in the literature category, 1 winner in the music composition category, and 3 winners in the visual arts category. And out of all of these winners, 4 of them have been selected to receive the Award of Excellence, and their entries will be moved up to the Riverside County level. Our juniors and seniors recently started mentoring the 6th graders on our middle school campus on their science and engineering projects. Many of us juniors and seniors have either already completed or are currently working on a science or engineering capstone project, and we are excited to share our knowledge of research and experimental design with the middle school class. This project is ongoing until the end of the year, and we're excited to watch the 6th graders develop into capable researchers. Recently, we had our annual blood drive on February 24th, and our students loved to participate in that event in particular. The blood drive was sponsored by Livestream Blood Bank and hosted by our anatomy and physiology class. And while we're approaching spring break, there's still a number of activities that we have planned before we leave for our vacation. This Thursday, STEM High is hosting its annual 8th grade day, where STEM leaders will introduce the 8th graders to the STEM High life and campus and interact with them through various fun activities and games that we've planned. This Monday, our leadership team is also hosting a school-wide synergy that engages students and builds relationships with one another in order to improve school culture and self-awareness. On March 19th, we have our annual Spring Fling Festival, which will include fun carnival games, booths, and food. And finally, the leadership team has planned a synergy exclusively for the sophomore class, which will focus on planning events and strengthening the relationships within that class. And after spring break, we plan to host more synergies for the other classes as well. Thank you for having me here this evening to give you the chance to update you on our recent events. I look forward to presenting to you all again next time. And if you have any questions, I will answer them to the best of my ability.
Thank you. Any questions for Bill? Thank you, Bill.
All right, thank you.
All right. Now we're going to move on to some special recognition, so Bill mustn't go very far. We'll now call upon Dr. Ryan Lewis.
You can come join me. Come on. Good evening, Mrs. Alavi, Dr. Hanson, board members. We have a very special recognition this evening. You've heard from Bill several times about the work we've done at STEM, But while representing his school so well in what he does, he's also been very busy with his own work and his own accomplishments. And we just wanted to recognize something he has accomplished personally that is, we'll just say, just short of extraordinary of what he's able to do and be part of. So I'd like to read to you, and then I'll maybe have Bill give a highlight of what he's done, and then the board would like to present him with a certificate. So we're going to recognize Bill as the winner of the 2019 Congressional App Challenge for California District 41. Bill, a student at STEM, was selected to represent the 41st Congressional District as a winner in the 5th Annual Congressional App Challenge, a contest sponsored by the United States House of Representatives to promote computer science and coding for middle and high school students. Over 10,000 students from around the nation participated, submitting over 2,100 functioning apps. Apps were judged by tech entrepreneurs, tech experts, STEM celebrities, and computer science professors. Bill created the STEM Academy app that is used by students and parents to stay connected to the school. His app, along from winners around the country, will be representing 304 congressional districts, will be on display at the U.S. Capitol building and on their website. So on behalf of our entire district, I would like to recognize Bill for all of his accomplishments, and we are so proud of him.
Thank you all very much for that. I really do appreciate it. I will highlight some of the things and just kind of describe the process for the competition. The Congressional App Challenge is not solely about just creating an app, but it's also documenting the development experience and, just kind of highlighting what were some of the things that I struggled with in my development process and why is my app, why does it exist? What's the purpose of it? What's it trying to benefit? And I actually, Mrs. Alavi, I have to thank you because you were actually the one that referred the challenge to me in the first place. So I really do appreciate you shedding the light, bringing that into light for me. So I really, really appreciate all of you for recognizing me tonight, and it's really, really a big honor. Thank you.
Should we get back?
Want to go up there?
Yeah.
Yeah. Thank you all again. I appreciate it. Thank you.
Okay, Dr. Lewis, more recognition.
Yes, ma'am. So we had two other very unique situations that we want to recognize two students who were very heroic in what they were able to do, but also some backstory on what we as a district and how we never know the actions we're going to take in the partnerships where it will lead. So a few years ago when we started CPR with our community partners, with American Heart Association, with CBU, and the other groups started in 7th and 9th grade, we were contacted by the parent of a young man who was working on a science fair project. And Dr. Biswas said, we have an idea of how to bring this down into elementary school. Weren't sure how it was going to work, but she and her family were so dedicated. They worked at that time with Kirsten Frausto to find ways, to find schools, to go down and work with 5th graders on hands-only CPR, because we never know. And you never know when you're going to be called to serve or act as in a situation where you're going to put yourself in a life-saving situation for somebody who is in need. So we put that together and didn't really think much more about it. She would go out and Dr. Biswas would volunteer and give that time and work with the schools that were there. And then we were notified by Washington of two situations that we just want to make sure we recognize our students for acting at a time when we know the stress and everything that goes into that, but these students stepped up and were heroes. So I'd like to read a little bit about them. The Board of Education is going to recognize two hero students, Mariah Madrigal and Adrian Aleman, both from George Washington Elementary School. On Wednesday, December 18th, 2019, Mariah and Abigail, fifth grade students at George Washington Elementary School, were attending an after-school program when Abigail suddenly ran to the restroom. Mariah followed her and could see that Abigail was choking on something. She got behind her and gave her the Heimlich maneuver to dislodge a piece of candy cane that was stuck in her throat. They both reported what happened to the school staff immediately. So just think about it. We have two students. A young lady runs to the bathroom who is choking. Another student recognizes that and is able to act and saved her life. And that was all part of training that was done through CPR. And the second student, before we call them up, on January 9th, 2020, Adrian Aleman, a sixth grade student from the same school at George Washington Elementary, was at home and observed his grandfather, Joe, was in distress. His grandmother called 911, but she was not strong enough to perform CPR. The 911 operator asked if someone stronger could do just chest compressions. Because Adrian had learned CPR at school, in the fifth grade, he was able to perform chest compressions while they waited for paramedics to arrive. Adrian learned CPR participating in his fifth grade CPR training provided by RUSD and our partner, Dr. Mimi Biswa, with the Riverside Community Hospital, who is also a professor at UCR. And before we recognize the students, I believe Dr. Biswa is here with her son who started the project. Can you just stand up and be recognized real quick, please? Thank you so much for what you do for our district. We so appreciate you both, and thank you for being here. And then I'd like to have Adrian and Mariah come up and also recognize them.
Yes, please.
So you guys are going to walk. Let's go this way.
Let's put you guys in the middle here. How about that? Oh, sure. In.
And Mrs. Olive, if it's okay, I'd like Dr. Biswa to only
Yes.
give us a quick summary of what she does for our district.
Yes, and we'd like to have him introduce his grandfather too.
Perfect.
Okay.
Go ahead.
Thank you for having me here. What we've been doing from Riverside Community Hospital has been to formulate this plan of teaching the fifth graders in perpetuity CPR every year through our residency program. So it all started with my son's sixth grade science project where he taught his sixth grade friends CPR in his classroom, and it just blossomed into this program, which we're very proud of. And I teach the residents at UC Riverside cardiology, and part of the community service I said would be to go to the schools, try to hit all the schools of RUSD every year, every fifth grader, and every year we get new residents coming in, so we always have a lot of manpower, and we'll go in and teach everyone CPR, and it'll go on forever as far as I can tell, and it's like a pebble in the water. You throw a pebble in the water, and the ripple effect in trying to teach the whole community CPR. And this year we're teaching the kids to go and take what they've learned and teach everyone in their household and see who else they can teach. And then it's a little program where the ripple effect, try to get everyone more educated. Yeah, so thank you.
It's wonderful. Thank you so much.
Adrian, could you come back up?
Yeah, bring his grandfather.
Adrian, if you could you please introduce your grandfather to us?
Right here I got my grandpa. His name is Joe Alaman, Joey Alaman.
Grandpa's okay. Grandpa worked.
I just thank God that he was there at the time.
Yes,
To
absolutely.
help my
We're
wife.
very proud of Adrian.
Yes, great job. Well, thank you.
Thank you very much, Dr. Lewis. And now we are going to have a presentation to the board. Ms. Lynn Carmen-Day.
Good evening, Board President Alavi, Dr. Hanson, and esteemed board members. Earlier, you heard the results of the Riverside Arts Academy Music Project with our opening performance. The Riverside Arts Academy received a grant called the Presto Grant. We are currently in our second year awarded to them for a music program in partnership with our school. The music mentoring program with our in-school program is designed based on extensive research that shows that students who receive 5+ hours of music instruction weekly outperform their peers in just about every aspect, including academically in English language arts, math, and also have excellent attendance and discipline. So tonight we could not be more appreciative to the Riverside Arts Academy board and staff that have brought forth to our district many amazing programs, and specifically the RAMP program. So at this time, I would like to invite Lauren Lee, board member and treasurer, to present the second year funding of $15,000 to the Board of Education.
I'm so short. Thank you and good evening. Thank you for having us here today on behalf of the Riverside Arts Academy Board, our Executive Director, Cara Crown, and thank you for allowing us to showcase our awesome and amazing RAMP students. That was just a select few. There's many more, and yes, hundreds, and they're wonderful, and we love them. But we're here tonight because we're pleased to present to RUSD a $15,000 check. That is the second installment of a grant that we did in collaboration with the district for a program called El Sistema. We're pleased to collaborate with the district, with the wonderful Anne-Marie Guzzi and the principals at our various school sites, where we're able to offer music education and instruction in collaboration with the city of Riverside. Without your help, we wouldn't be able to offer this type of program, and it helps with our mission to empower the youth and change lives of the youth of Riverside through music education and exposure to music. So thank you,
Oh, that's
would not
wonderful.
be complete without the giant check.
Could we have you come on
Yes,
up and
we would love to. Here we are. Thank you so much. Thanks for having us. I love it.
So I just want to say thanks so much to the Riverside Arts Academy, but also I think we all know that Anne-Marie Guzzi is amazing to work with and cultivates a lot of great partnerships in our community. So I'd also like to thank her.
Thank you. It's a real pleasure to have these kind of collaborations with our community and to do music and art. I very much appreciate all the effort that the Riverside Art Academy goes to. Thank you so much. And now we are going to have our district superintendent's report.
Thank you, Madam President. Board, this evening on our consent calendar, we have individuals or different entities who have given gifts and donations of either usable items or money to the school district. And the total donation this evening is just over $83,000. Let me just share with you some of the donations that are there this evening. The PTA gave just less than $6,000 to Harrison Elementary School. We have Riverside, Polly, and Ramona each received $5,000 apiece from the Elizabeth M. Webster and Edmund Family Foundation. And also, we had a very generous donation to our John F. Kennedy Elementary School from Ali Mazzari and Zara Yazandi. I hope I'm saying that correct. I apologize if I'm not. And they happen to be in the audience this evening. But Ali and Zara actually, a few years ago, donated emergency backpacks to all of the classrooms. And this donation this evening on the consent is just over $6,000. They donated a class set of Chromebooks or computers with the chargeable cart to JF Kennedy. And they are here, and I know that Mrs. Alavi would like to say a word or two.
Yes, this is a special certificate of appreciation because sometimes when people see a need and they act upon it, we just have to acknowledge their kindness and their generosity, and we certainly do in this case because those Chromebooks are really essential to everything that we're doing as far as testing and in-school work. So I would like Mr. Ali Mazzari and Zara Yazdani to come up. Yeah, please. Come on up here. We have a very small acknowledgement of your kindness. I'd like to have you just, you're very, thank you so much. Really, really. Step up one step. Step up one step. Step it. All right. Okay.
Again, just very grateful for all of the friends of RUSD who give so much to our schools. Thank you. Board members, I have two other statements or items I'd like to talk about this evening. The first one, I want everyone here tonight to know that our Board of Education and this entire district leadership team feel a great responsibility to ensure that our schools are safe for all students. And safe includes that no student of any age should feel that disparaging or degrading comments, slurs, or gestures are ever acceptable. And when unacceptable language or conduct does arise, our students need to be able to count on school authority to step in and to stop it and to prevent it from reoccurring. Let me be direct. Hurtful language, whether about race, religion, disability, or any other protected characteristic, is never acceptable. Acts, including speech, must never marginalize or demean. Our expectations about respectful conduct apply to all of the adults as well. In fact, they must apply to adults with even more force because our teachers and staff members should serve as role models for our students. I have heard some criticism that as a district, as a superintendent, we tolerate bad behavior through inaction. Simply put, I've heard lots of words with no meaningful change. But that is not the case. Actions have consequences. Discipline is imposed for employees and student misconduct. Yet, as educators, we understand that punishment is not always the most effective way to change a person's behavior. For that reason, we also strive to model and teach the underlying values that make staff and students not want to engage in inappropriate speech and conduct. Again, not out of fear of punishment, but because they understand the damage that can be caused by slurs and other misconduct, and they do not want to subject their friends, classmates, or even colleagues and other members of the school community to that harm. We have, as a school district, been diligently working on this district-wide and also at specific school sites. District-wide, over this last year, we've trained all leaders on implicit bias and cultural proficiency, recognizing, interrupting, and repairing when we see and hear inequities, both implicit or explicit. We've been collaborating with the city and community leaders to address this for the entire Riverside family. The city leadership is taking a lead on creating actionable steps to really implement a more inclusive city. Specifically, at Martin Luther King High School, we earlier this year established a multicultural class back in August. They established an equity school team with staff and students to address these issues at the beginning of this last school year. 3 Synergy days for a few hundred students have been planned or continue to happen. Synergy, the purpose of Synergy is to promote a more positive culture in schools that encourage trust, open communication, building rapport, and truly knowing other people and their stories. As I mentioned, King has completed 2 of these so far for 200 students, and they have a 3rd one for another 100 students planned for next month. At King, every Wednesday, students participate in listening circles and facilitated conversations are held. Parent and community meetings are scheduled for March, April, and May. Anti-Defamation League, No Place for Hate program or campaign with 3 school-wide events are currently being planned, and site professional development has been planned for April the 20th on anti-bias teacher training. Specifically at Amelia Earhart Middle School, Synergy Days are also scheduled for this April. Professional development for all staff is being planned. Activities scheduled for their student congress or their student leadership. Concern boxes for students to discreetly share their concerns is made available to all students. We've implemented the text-to-tip and made that available for all students to alert administration of any kind of concerns or bullying. And community circles are also planned. Now I want to commend our district and school site leadership and staff for their urgency in addressing these issues. Of course, the issues the district has been confronting recently are not only RUSD issues. These are societal issues that spill over onto our school campuses. Yet, we must accept the challenge, and we do accept the challenge in our role to make RUSD a safe, welcoming, and inclusive place for all students and staff. That is our commitment as a governing team to this school district and to the city, and it's my commitment as superintendent. The last thing I'd like to share this evening is on the coronavirus, or COVID-19. It certainly has raised questions and concerns worldwide. When Italy closes its borders to contain a virus, it's understandable that people worldwide would grow even more anxious. I want to assure everyone that our district, like all school districts throughout the state, is in regular communication with our County Office of Public Health. And we are closely collaborating to provide schools with the latest information and protocols for managing this health concern. At this time, we do not have any reported cases of coronavirus in our school district. We are taking many steps to mitigate the concerns, including prioritized campus cleaning procedures to sanitize high-touch areas such as doorknobs, handrails, sinks, and drinking fountains. I want to thank our maintenance and operation teams for jumping into action and thank all of our employees who are reminding students and each other to practice good health hygiene by washing your hands often with soap and water and using a sanitizer, covering your cough and your sneeze. And if you feel sick, please stay home from work and school until you are well. Please visit our district website for updates on this important resources that we provide. And the last thing, on a more light note, I want to congratulate the Riverside Poly mock trial team for winning the 19th time for county mock trial on March the 2nd. Poly will now move to the California mock state competition set for March the 22nd through 24th in Sacramento. And we wish the Poly administration team and the coach and the attorneys and all the students the very best as they compete at state. That concludes my comments for this evening.
Thank you. It is generally our board procedure that we have public comment before the item. However, I didn't receive this card until afterwards, so I will call on Ms. Pepper for public comment on the superintendent's report.
Oh, thank you. Yeah, I know where that is. Thanks. Maybe we need hand sanitizers up here, so if I touch this, right? Is that what this is? Good idea. I have two comments related to the superintendent's comments. But first, I should say for people in the audience, there is an agenda item for public comment. That's a separate issue. This is you can make comments on each of the agenda items. So I wanted to say about what you talked about with the bullying and name calling. It's really important that adults step in as these things happen. However, one of the purposes of sending children to school is socialization and learning how to deal with problems. So as children get older, they should have other ways to deal with these things besides expecting an adult will always recognize them. That is why as children, my siblings and I and many other kids we knew were taught sticks and stones may hurt your bones, but names will never hurt you. So it's important to teach kids not to get too upset by language. It's also important to teach them to be able to stand up for themselves and to mock bullies. So I hope that the school will add to the things it's doing age-appropriate lessons for kids on how they can stand up for themselves, including the use of humor, and also how they can come to the aid of one of their friends, because that is one of the ways to stop bullying. When other kids step in and say, no, this is stupid, don't be a jerk. So I hope that among the many things you're teaching the kids, it's to stand up for themselves and to help other kids and not just wait for an adult to show up. My second comment is about what's missing from this report. While these are important topics, a really, really, really important topic for RUSD is the financial problems caused by lack of money. And one of the things that we have been repeatedly told by members of your group is that not to worry about all the money you're spending on the UCR fake high school, illegally spending Measure O money on that, because you're going to get matching state funds. You didn't mention the fact, this is big news for people in schools, that the state Proposition 13 didn't pass. So there's no state matching funds. So you guys need to figure out what you're going to do about the fact you're going to use up all that Measure O money on something that the voters didn't vote for while you've been telling them, oh, don't worry, we'll take care of what you voted for with other money that now you're not going to get. So that really needs to be a topic in a superintendent's report. The other thing that's kind of interest is that Measure A, RCCD's effort to get a bunch of money, $1 billion with interest, right? They didn't get it either. And I'd like to think that part of that is because of the disrespect that people feel towards how schools are spending money, and they don't trust you guys anymore because of what you have done.
Ms.
Thanks.
Pepper, just stay where you are because you have the next comment card.
But the people who are going to make their comments before I do.
It is our board procedure to have comments ahead of the item.
No, it isn't. You tried that before, Mrs. Levy, and we had this argument before, and you guys make your comments, and then public comment after they hear what you have to say. How can anybody comment on what you're going to do until they hear you? Don't try it.
Board, may I have a
if we need do you want a motion to
yes,
do it?
Please.
Motion to have a public comment prior to the agenda item.
Thank you. Do I have a second?
You can't
Do I have a second?
You can't change the Brown Act by doing that.
That's not it at all.
You cannot do
May
that.
I have a second?
It's illegal, but you've been doing lots of illegal things. And this is just more example of what you guys will do to try and keep people from hearing what you're up to.
Do I hear a second? No?
Doesn't anybody want to join in the illegal activity here? Come on, suck at them. We like these records of what's going on.
It is now your turn to make a comment.
No, they haven't spoken yet, and you didn't get a second to your motion.
Okay. Ms. Lock-Dawson? Yes, it is.
Thank you, Mrs. Alvey. I just wanted to congratulate the Poly boys basketball team. They did play in a really amazing game. They played Windward, which is at Azusa Pacific, and it was indeed, as Olivia said, a packed stadium. And it was a very exciting game, came really right down to the wire. It was, they were up, the other team was up, they were down, and so they played really well. And their chief scorer is Lamont, I can't remember his last name, if somebody else out there can help me with it. Butler, is now, has claimed the title of the all-time scorer for Poly High School ever. So he, I believe, is going to San Diego State University. So he has signed there. So that's a big deal. And mock trial, also doing well. And I did also just want to kind of comment on Dr. Hansen's report, just in the sense that, you know, somehow in our society now, in our country, we are living in very fraught times where somehow meanness, hate, name-calling, blaming has been normalized. And it's coming down from the national level down to local levels. And I think it's incumbent on all of us to just reject it. I don't think we can fight that kind of hatred with more name-calling and blaming. I think we just really need to focus on what the problems are at hand and try to work together to solve them. And I'm pleased to see that we have so many things in place, Dr. Hansen, with the caveat that I know we have a ways to go. So I think if we can all work together and ask for each other's patience and grace, we can get through this, because no one should tolerate hate. So thank you.
Thank you. Mr. Lee?
No comment, but a request from staff, if they could please look into with legal counsel what Brown Act says about to when public comment has to be.
Thank you. Mr. Hodnett?
Hey, I have a couple. One is just about a couple things that have been going on at my school. Some students from my school, they just came back from the HBCU tour. For you guys who don't know, an HBCU is a historically black college and university. So they went down to Atlanta, Georgia, and Alabama. They got to see some of the great colleges out there, like Clark Atlanta, Spelman, Morehouse College, Alabama State, and Tuskegee University. Then not only did they just see like some college tour, but they actually got to go to like historical sites and be in like a new environment that they've never been to. Like they went to the state capitol, I seen. So that was just one thing. Another is that we have our 4 leadership classes at North: MCC, the Multicultural Council; USL, the United Student League; Renaissance, and the Freshman Link crew. Our leadership classes, they give voice and choice to our students. Our student leaders affect meaningful change and lead school-wide efforts, not just at North, but also in our community. A couple examples of that is when our MCC went down to King and we performed our haka. A haka is a Tongan cultural performance, and we went and people from all different ethnicities. It was great. So we went down to King and we performed with their MCC. And I just want to say the student leadership classes wanted to say thank you to Dr. Farouk for attending our Husky Pride Day and speaking to our future Huskies. So thank you for that. We had our Kindness Week, which was led by the Multicultural Council, and it turned into our Heart Day. Our Heart Day is when we spend hours. I'm in the Multicultural Council, so they spend hours on cutting out these hearts for every staff member, if that be the lunch ladies, janitors, every grade level, librarian, everyone at North gets a heart with their name on it, and we paint these giant murals where they can just come and take it off. So, it just makes it feel like, that they matter and they're actually a person, not just a number. So, that was great. Little shout out, 4 of our 6 winter sports made it to CIF playoffs, with some teams winning league for the first time in school history for a very long time. For example, wrestling won a league title for the first time in 35 years and has had our first 2-time CIF place winner. Shout out to Giovanni Alvarado. Some upcoming events that I would like to invite all the board and cabinet members to is one of them is a night out to help out on April 4th. On April 4th. It's a fundraiser for scholarships. We also have our senior exhibition, which is April 22nd. Senior exhibition is a project that all seniors at North participate in for their final grade, and it's pretty much a presentation on something that you've worked on your 4 years at North, if that be a skit, a song and band, anything that you worked on. You'll present it in front of a panel of teachers, community members, and et cetera. And we just really like to, and we also have our Athlete of Character and North Hall of Fame banquet on May 11th. So I'd like to see you guys all there, hopefully. Our Rusky Huskies, we came in 3rd season competing the first league robotics, the most rigorous and advanced robotics competition in the high school level. You need to find a press release in your folders outlining the details of their work. Before I finish, I would just like to comment on some things that Dr. Hansen said. It's like it's almost shameful, on RUSD, just seeing all these things. Like, let's just be honest, seeing them on the news and everyone's talking about them, and I want to be, so proud to be part of here, but then these things keep on happening. Like the thing at King, I was like, okay. Then the thing at Earhart, then I'm like, okay. Then another thing, then I'm like, okay. And then my own school that I love to go to, North High School, which, we like to pride ourselves for being so diverse. If that's one thing North's got, is being diverse, and that's what I love so much. But then even at my own school, something happened last week, so it just shows that like Dr. Hansen said, we cannot tolerate it, and it doesn't belong here. So the same way that student gets treated and he gets removed or he gets suspended or expelled, then the same thing needs to happen with not just these adults, but these racists that are in our district. Because it's not just me saying this, it's all my peers. We've had enough of it. And in order for the generation in order to have the bright future that you guys have installed for us, it's so important that we have the right adults in our classrooms, in our day-to-day lives. And a couple things that I know that North has done, I've done, is that we would go down to University Heights Middle School, and we would talk to the students there, because it starts as early as middle school. Maybe if you guys didn't know, but race relations doesn't just start in the 9th grade. This happens in the community. So we'll go down to uni, and we'll try to stop it there. We'll bring students that have been through those disputes and conflicts, and we'll just talk to them, be that older brother for them. And we've seen it. I've seen it since my sophomore year, mentoring the younger kids at uni, then watching them come to North, and they're completely different people. So some things, I don't know what needs to be done, but we just need to realize that there's a difference between history, and then there's a difference between hate. When I say that, I'm talking about, different symbols and things that, might be protected, but hate is hate, and it doesn't belong in our RUSD. So, maybe we can all work on a couple ideas to do better. That's all I have to say.
Do you want to introduce anybody?
Oh, yeah. Oh, yeah. Okay. This meeting is actually very important to me just because my mom came today, guys. This is my mom. She's over there. This is her first time coming to my meeting, so I hope she likes it, and I'm just very glad she came today. I love her so much. Thanks, Mom.
Welcome. Dr. Farouk?
Thank you, President Alavi. And I just want to begin by just saying how much we appreciate your leadership. Your mom should be proud, our North Husky family, our school district, and our community for you being the voice of all the 42,000 students. And I can tell you, as somebody who also strongly grapples with the experiences that you're talking about, that we do definitely need to do better. And I hope that your voice and the students' participation in helping provide that leadership to support our board, our district, in getting to where we need to be is an important part of the equation, and you are instrumental in making that happen. So thank you, Freddie. And just to build on that as well, I appreciated Dr. Hansen outlining his statement about all the comprehensive aspects of how we've been trying to address something that's very difficult sometimes, because it can be in the implicit, and there's a lot of gray areas on how people express hate and those kinds of issues. I hope that there's a way to disseminate that information that extends beyond the confines of these board meetings to the broader community. And I also want to say that as much as we are putting out a call to students and to our RUSD family for being able to provide notices of incidents and reporting and all of that, I hope that we also have that kind of a spirit in terms of collaboration of ideas and ways that we can effectively address this issue. And we welcome that input from the community, from families, anywhere where we can get good ideas, because we need everybody's help in figuring out how to do this. But I think a lot of those programs and policies that we've implemented can make strong headway towards that effort. I wanted to share also the California Building Industry Association. They have a program called the Building Industry Technology Academy, and it's specifically for high school students, but it also they're piloting in middle schools as well. It's an opportunity, I think, to bolster the career path, the construction building trades pathways that we already have in this district, for example, like at Ramona High School. But I hope that we can explore its applicability to any of our campuses beyond. I have sent a draft MOU to Dr. Hansen and Dr. Lewis. This partnership, the curriculum, it's a 4-year curriculum, is sponsored by BIA. The curriculum doesn't cost anything to the school district. They have paid internship opportunities, free professional development for staff to provide that instruction. It's a really great opportunity, and so I hope that that's something that we can follow up on as well. That concludes my comments.
Thank you. Maybe we can also put that on for future agenda topics.
Yes, I would love that. Thank you.
Okay, thank you. Over the last few weeks, I have attended multiple state and county events that encourage more art and music in our schools, including a field trip to Chula Vista Elementary School just a week or so ago with Dr. Lewis, Jen DeAnda, Colette Lee, and Anne-Marie Guzzi, and I just wanted to give you a quick report about this. Chula Vista is a huge elementary district near San Diego with 30,000 TK through 6 students and 49 schools, including 5 dependent charters. As a district, they are 70% Hispanic, and the 2 schools we visited were predominantly English language learner. In 2014, their school board announced its commitment to provide music and art instruction for all elementary school students every week, hiring dozens of new teachers and making a $15 million commitment from LCAP funds. Since they have done this, I wanted to tell you about some of the changes that they have been seeing in their classrooms. Academically, their district has improved dramatically. They are now one of the top districts in the state compared to others in their cohort, and they are an academic outlier among all state districts. In the schools we visited, expulsions and suspensions are down. Attendance is up. Parent engagement is up, and this is in a district which had very little parent engagement due to the nature of immigration in the area. And subjectively, principals told us that students like school much more, and they're very much more happy. As an example of this, we witnessed a 30-minute drum music session for fourth graders that was very, very interesting. When the students came into the room, the music instructor asked them to evaluate how do they feel coming into the class, and with a thumbs up or a thumbs down, and he got kind of mixed results from everybody. And so then they proceeded to have their music lesson, which was all drums. It was repetition, it was repeating different kind of rhythms, it was creating different sounds from nature on the drum, and it was student-led. And afterwards, the students went around the room and said, "How are you feeling now?" And it was 100% thumbs up. So I asked the principal, I said, "Is this music or social and emotional support?" And she said, "Exactly." So I think that kind of tells you this student population was 95% English language learners, but they were all communicating very well in music lessons. So you kind of wonder, how does Chula Vista do it? They choose to earmark LCAP money that would have gone to many other programs into the arts. They shift funds to make the arts happen, realizing that it has all of those multiple benefits that I was just telling you about. And they also utilize community arts groups to offer expanded music and art, much of the same way you heard tonight that we do through the Riverside Academy of Art and through the Riverside Art Museum. And they have, of course, they're in San Diego, and they've got many arts groups that they connect with, but that's what they do on a weekly basis. They also offer professional development, and the music teachers work along the general ed teachers so that they do, so they're able to coordinate their topics. For instance, at another school we visited, the music instructor did a whole lesson of chanting, singing, and dancing to habitats, which is what they were learning in social studies. So I mentioned this trip to Chula Vista because I have been giving a lot of thought to mandatory arts minutes. As you know, the reason we have mandatory PE minutes is because of a lawsuit that forced our hand. And I've been wondering why we are going to wait until the ACLU, which I heard is also considering a similar lawsuit in California for the arts. I'm wondering why we would want to wait until they sue the state of California when we can institute our own mandatory arts minutes in elementary school right here at RUSD. So Chula Vista began with 2 elementary schools, and then they expanded to 6, and then to the entire district. With LCAP coming up, I just wanted to put this thought in everyone's head that we might start down the same road. Next month, the same group is going to continue our research with a trip to Bakersfield to see a K-12 school district that has put arts totally district-wide. And so I hope to bring back that data to you later. So thank you. Ms. Pepper?
Thank you, Mrs. Alivi. You see, how could I possibly comment on your comments until I heard them, right? So, I'd like to say, in terms of some of the comments that were made about racial injustice and misbehavior related to that at the school level, it's important to really understand what's going on. And sometimes that takes more of an investigation than the people at the school, including at the administration level, are willing or even think about doing. I know about this because one of my neighbor's little boys was suspended and about to be expelled because he was involved in a fight at school. And you know there's a zero tolerance policy. And his parents had been my friends, or his grandparents had been my friends for a long time, and I knew him, he was a nice little kid, so I agreed to help them. I'm the one who ended investigating what was going on. I'm the one who found out that another kid at University Middle School, a white kid, decided to start a race riot at the middle school. So we got 2 other little kids who were Hispanic to attack kids during the lunch hour to try and cause a fight. And they went up to my friend's, my neighbor's little boy, who was half black and half Hispanic, and went up and tried to make him fight them. And they shoved him, and he wouldn't fight back. He said, "Don't do that. And he shoved him again. He said, "Don't do that again, or I will defend myself." And when the kid shoved him again, he decked him. He knocked him out with one punch, and he was a much smaller kid. And he got expelled. He didn't get expelled, he got suspended. They all got suspended. And I investigated it. And you know what? First of all, he had a legal right to defend himself because he was attacked. No, I don't care about zero tolerance. Everybody, kid or not, has a right to defend themselves when they are attacked. But I'm the one who found out that it was all a plot to start a race riot. I went and talked to little kids at the school. I found out what was going on. I got declarations from kids, the little girls who pulled him out of the fight, right? Everybody except the people at the school knew what was really going on. We had a hearing. His parents came, his grandparents, and when his grandfather said, "Take your shirt off, Aaron," and he took his shirt off, they saw a huge scar because this kid was small because he had an open heart surgery, and his grandfather had taught him boxing and told him, rules of engagement, if you get attacked, you got to end the fight right away. And that's what the kid did, and he was going to be expelled because nobody at the school investigated. So one of the most recent things that's happened at this school has been the whole thing that made national news. Those kids supposedly, you know, with all the Trump sign and the Confederate sign and the swastika, and you treated them like they were actually white supremacists and it was a hate crime. Because one other kid took that photo that was a joke and put a thing about, oh, there's racial problems at King High School. And so they all got suspended just like that, really fast. And nobody bothered to think, why are these Hispanic kids there with the Trump sign and a swastika?
Thank you, Ms. Pepper.
Why? Because it was
Your
a
time
joke
is
and
up.
nobody checked.
Your time is up. We're now going to be moving to public comment. We're going to start with Stacy Pipes Joyner and then have Brianna Carlos.
Mrs. Levy, Dr. Hansen, and esteemed members of the board, good evening. My name is Stacy Pipes Joyner. I am a children's social worker with the Department of Children and Family Services, and I'm also a doctoral candidate at University of Southern California School of Social Work. But more importantly, I am a mother of a senior that's graduating this year from this wonderful district. I'm here this evening to discuss a problem that has been around for decades, one that has directly impacted many families, including my own. You see, my son has come to me on many occasions expressing his deep concern and frustration about his school doing very little to help him prepare for the real world. He's expressed the lack of input from guidance counselors and teachers that he so desperately needed in order to make an informed decision about his career path. I, like every other parent, falsely believe that in addition to academics, high schools would also be preparing our kids for life after graduation. And sadly, this hasn't been the case, when 66% of students nationwide fear life after graduation because they simply don't have a plan. This, along with the 70% of students reporting stress and anxiety as being the biggest threats on school campuses, shows that our kids are needlessly suffering. These alarming statistics are what prompted me to take action, so I created a program called PUSH. PUSH stands for Preparing Us for Social Harmony. It is an in-school program that is designed to aid in the positive mental and personal development of school-age kids. The curriculum for PUSH is centered around 4 main categories: self-awareness, life skills, community activism, and mindfulness. The life skills module, for example, is a 16-week course which allows students to cultivate a career path by first identifying their interest and then matching them with their skills and abilities in order to uncover their potential career paths. They will learn interviewing skills, create resumes, and ultimately design 4 potential career paths that they could choose from. At the end of the course, the students will have a completed portfolio which they can use to create a game plan for their lives after graduation. The program is designed for students grades 9 through 12, and it coincides with the school's academic calendar. During fall semester of this year, I had the privilege of piloting a portion of the program with a group of 11th grade students at the Ramona High School Healthcare Academy. The head coordinator of the academy expressed deep concern over the students' stress levels and requested that I teach a mindfulness portion of my course to these kids. The course included activities such as learning breathing techniques, identifying stressors and triggers, and also meditation exercises using virtual reality goggles. Data collected from the pilot showed an 85% decrease in students' overall stress levels by the end of the pilot. My hope is to build a relationship with our USD and hopefully run a full gamut of the program as a pilot. I would like to start with the AVID kids first because they're the most stressed out, and to eventually run the course district-wide if given the opportunity. So I thank you for your time. I have brochures here if you would like more information.
Yes, please leave those with us. Thank you very much. Brianna Carlos, and then Ruben Lemos.
Good evening, Dr. Hansen, the board, and the public. I came today because I wanted to tell you all what I've learned by being a part of the Super Peers. We are taught to see the signs of bullying, abuse, and when someone has suicidal thoughts. This program has changed me for the better. Growing up, I had horrible grades, horrible friends, and a horrible attitude. I never had any motivation to learn. I was at my breaking point. It wasn't until I became a part of this program did things change. Ms. Sarmiento changed everything negative for me and opened my eyes. This program has motivated me to come to school every day and to do something with my life. I lost the people who I thought were my friends, but quickly realized I lost the negativity in my life. Thanks to this program, I won't be just another statistic. There were times that I didn't want to live, but thank God I'm alive. Ms. Sarmiento taught me that the day you stop fighting, that's the day you lose the grip of who you are as a person. I could never pay her back, but I'm going to start with a diploma. I can guarantee you that if this program was never made, I wouldn't be here right now. I'd probably be a high school dropout. All I needed was someone to tell me that I could do it, and for someone to see not only my grades, but to see me as well. I've had students come in thanking me just for listening to them and for being a reliable source. This program not only helps the students, but also helps us understand more each day. It shows us that everyone around you is going through something that you know nothing about. To be kind to strangers because that shows human decency. I can go on and on about this program. Trust me, this program simply saved my life. It gave me a reason to wake up each and every day to help the students at Ramona High School and to let them know that they are not alone, that there are people who care about them, who will listen to them, and who want to see them every day. I know what these students are going through because I have gone through it. I am still going through it. But with the help of Kathleen Sarmiento and the rest of the Super Peers, they let you know that you'll be okay. The Super Peers is such an amazing program that I'm lucky enough to have experienced. It has impacted me personally, and I could say that it also has impacted many students on our campus. This program has showed me that you can't know joy unless you know sorrow. Thank you.
Thank you very much. Ruben Lemos, and then Guadalupe Esparza.
Good evening, Dr. Hansen, to the board, and to the public. My name is Ruben Lemos. I'm a senior at Ramona High School, and I am a Super Peer. The Super Peer program is a program dedicated to help students across campus who are in need of help, need someone to talk to, and just to have a friend. That's who we are, and that's what we do. Being a Super Peer has changed my life in a positive way because I love seeing the positive impact that myself and the other peers have had on students all across Ramona's campus. Seeing students smile at the end of our sessions reassures me that the students still have hope in themselves and others at our school. This is my last year in high school, and I couldn't be happier joining a program like the Super Peer program. And the everlasting effects this program has put on me has changed my view about others and the world. I know so many students at Ramona who are happy to see a positive change and awareness for mental health because the crisis is real. It doesn't affect Ramona, it affects all schools across the nation. The Super Peers are changing Ramona in a positive way, slowly but surely, one smile at a time. Thank you.
Thank you very much. Didn't I see you in the high school, the All Honors musical? Were you in the musical? No? Okay. Guadalupe Esparza? Oh, no. I'm sorry. Yeah, Guadalupe.
Good afternoon, Ms. Dr. Hansen and board members. My name is Lupita Esparza. I am currently a senior and Super Peer counselor at Ramona High School. This afternoon, I'm going to share how this program has affected the newcomers and myself. As a Super Peer, I have encountered many students with a language barrier that lowers their self-esteem and makes them feel isolated within their own community. Being bilingual gives me an advantage and to connect with them on a more personal level. Throughout the school year, I have assessed a couple of kids who have shared with me that their self-esteem has boosted due to this program. A small example is a student who would not dare to order her own food due to the anxiety of people making fun of her English accent. I am pleased to say we are now helping these students realize that they have a voice and it matters. From a student standpoint, these kids are seen as an outcast, weird, and are usually made fun of due to their language barrier. This creates a toxic school environment and where they eventually will not want to be part of anymore. Most of these students who have traveled from across the world have lived through traumatic experiences that still affect them today. They are included in the statistic that 1 in 5 youth suffer with a mental condition. While talking to a couple of kids, I realized that this is a problem that affects more than just them. It is a self-esteem/worth issue that kids have to fight every single day. A solution to this is to run groups where my peers feel comfortable talking about their homelands and how it's okay to be where they currently are at. We discuss how everyone has a different story, how it is okay to not be 100% adjusted to this new lifestyle. It is a safe environment where students can both practice their English skills and integrate themselves into the school environment. As the American Foundation for Suicide Prevention states, friends can play a critical role in supporting those who are struggling, and it's reported that 76% of youth will return to a peer in a time of crisis for support. This is one of the main reasons why it is so crucial for our generation to learn how to have these conversations within themselves. Besides being a peer counselor, I have learned how to cope with my own emotions. I can sincerely say that I have learned this program I will forever carry with me and cherish. I have learned how to transform my dark days into better days, how to create light even when there is all darkness. I have learned how to look for mental illness and other actions. I now know how to notice when someone is calling or screaming for help with their actions by themselves. But more importantly, I know how to help someone who is on the verge of life or death. Thank you for allowing me this opportunity to speak on what I strongly feel passionate about. Thank you.
Thank you very much. Brandon Martinez, and then Tim Roach.
Good evening, Dr. Hansen and the board. Today I would like to talk about, hold on. My name is Brandon Martinez. I'm a senior and a super peer counselor at Ramona High School. And today I wanted to talk about how awesome the program is and the impact that it's had on the campus so far. The super peer program has lowered the social stigma of mental health and has made it easier for students across campus to talk about how they feel and basically all their struggles and be open about it. Statistically, suicide risk assessments have decreased by 46% since 2017 school year and is still decreasing. Ever since the Super Peer program has been set in place, we can see the difference on campus of how easy it is for students to come into the counselor's office and just ask for a Super Peer. There's been multiple occasions where I've just been in sixth period, minding my business, doing my work, and a student just needs someone to talk to, and they just come in, they're freaking out, and they're just comfortable enough to be like, I need a Super Peer. And I'm proud to say that I've helped 2 students in need who have been on the verge of suicide, and I've been more than glad to help them out of the situation that they've been in. The fall of 2017 had 94 assessments. The fall of 2018 had 51 assessments. Fall of 2019 and currently ongoing has been 23 and ongoing. So far you can see the drastic difference that the Super Peer program has had on campus. Some of the goals that we have for the future is to keep lowering the suicide assessments, lowering even more the social stigma and the type of health and mental health that students have. And another one would be for making our own peers, just regular students, seizing the awkward and letting them be comfortable enough to ask people about their issues. Also, specifications about the future would be including the implementation of the Super Peer program into new schools and lowering other schools' suicide assessments and spreading awareness and information for the betterment of social and student stigma. Milestones. Risk assessment decrease. Touching on the risk assessments, it is one of our main goals to lower and maintain the suicide assessments to a minimum. We've also gained access to a bunch of resources that allowed us as peers counselors to help our students and make them feel better as a person and help them grow as a person. And finally, I would like to thank you for allowing me to speak to you guys today and taking time out of your day to allow me to speak. Thank you.
Thank you. Mr. Roach?
Good evening, Madam President, Dr. Hanson, Assistant Superintendents, ladies and gentlemen of the school board, stewards of a proud tradition here in RUSD, very proud tradition. I'm glad we've talked. I'm a dad. My name is Tim Roach, a sophomore dad at Martin Luther King High School. I'm glad that, Doctor, you mentioned in your statement some of the issues. I'm going to just talk as a daddy to the different moms and dads and just give you perspective, years of not only knowing people like this, growing up in a long ago time and a place, and what I've learned about this. We're not going to change the community that this school sits in. We're not going to change all the parents in that community. I know many types of those kind of people, the parents that we're talking about. Our students know who the bullies are. Our students know who the racist kids are in these schools. I know who they are. The teachers should know who they are. What are we doing about it? That's the key. Many of these poor kids have nothing to go home to. The greatest of the greatest teachers in our community, the Hall of Famers that sat where you sat and who are still alive, many of you know them. There's a whole bunch of them. And they will tell you that their greatest strength was that they approached the parents or the family member at their home and said something I never hear anyone say: how can we help you? Instead of the machine message I get when my son apparently missed his sixth period, but the coach really forgets to mark him. Your son missed period 6. It's not friendly. What are the kids coming from? Teachers are like coaches. Each child has a special need. Each kid has a special way of you get through to a kid in a certain way. Zero tolerance. There needs to be a clear distinction between right and wrong. I've got the great fortune of subbing in the school districts and been to dozens of schools. Dr. Hanson said, step in, stop it, and prevent it. We need to start in the elementary schools. A great superintendent years ago, Ray Berry, said that at 8 years old, we noticed the test scores. What happens at 8 years old? In the elementary schools, if you ask the students, as I do every time I'm in there, what's going on, they will tell you. If you ask them what their problems are or who's doing this or that, elementary schools is where we need to start with this process. I see no exposure there. I thank you very much for allowing me a few minutes. Thanks.
Thank you very much, Mr. Roach. Linda Koskela.
Hello. My name is Linda Koskela. I'm a parent at Bryant Elementary School, and I'm here to express my concern over the use of glyphosate Roundup on our RUSD properties. Excuse me. Pesticides like Roundup have been associated with an increased risk of cancer, neurological impairment, birth defects, asthma, and other serious illnesses. Children are particularly vulnerable to these impacts due to their rapidly developing physiology, their hand-to-mouth behavior, and their immature elimination and detoxification systems. RUSD is poisoning their customers little by little. My children are young, kindergarten and first grade. Imagine their continual exposure to this toxin year after year, even in the smallest amounts. Their livers will be compromised at your hands. California EPA has stated this product is known to cause cancer. Why are we risking it? Several cities, counties, and school districts in the state have found this carcinogen to be an undesirable and have completely banned its use. Fairfax, Richmond, Sonora, Laguna Hills, and Irvine all have a citywide ban. Marin County, Burbank, Newport Mesa, Capistrano, and Irvine school districts all have an organics-only policy and have since about 2016. If these entities can do it, why can't RUSD? Our own city of Riverside has placed a moratorium on the use of glyphosate for the past 10 months. Clearly, they find this to be a questionable practice. Mayor Bailey stated, "Our job is to protect the public and would rather err on the side of safety." RUSD needs to adopt this same approach, especially when your constituents are young, vulnerable children, your field technicians spraying the carcinogen, and the many staff members of these campuses all in danger of exposure. There have been 3 litigated cases so far out of 42,000, all having accessible outcome for the plaintiff, payouts in the millions and billions of dollars. Some of the Riverside City departments that have had to try alternative methods for weed abatement due to the moratorium are Public Works, Public Utilities, General Services, and Parks and Recs. The City Council has requested a list of alternatives and their results. Perhaps RUSD can request a copy of this list. It's been confirmed that the city does not spray on playgrounds or walking paths even before the moratorium. Why is it acceptable for RUSD to spray on the playgrounds where children play? Even the tiniest of residue can be tracked in the classrooms. Therefore, I'm asking that that RUSD bans glyphosate Roundup and has an organics-only policy. I understand it's not a quick decision, therefore I request a moratorium while this decision is being made. Thank you.
Thank you. Ms. Pepper?
Well, I'm really glad I came out, despite the little bit of rain that was left, to come to this particular RUSD meeting. As you know, I've come to a lot of them. But this evening, the public comments have been really wonderful. I'm really glad to have heard of all of them. I think the idea about getting rid of Roundup on school property is a good one. The woman who presented the information about the program, the PUSH program, that sounds wonderful, and I hope you will look into adopting it. I think that's really important. Now I'm going to switch to something else. I made my comments about the board comments after a little bit of trouble to do so, and I commented on the things I heard. Now I'm going to comment on the things I didn't hear. I'm not a musician, but I've read things where musicians say that the pauses in the music, the silence in the music, is as important as all the notes you hear. It has meaning. And so, again, just as what the superintendent didn't talk about, the things that the board members didn't comment on tonight is also pretty telling. Because all of you have been guilty of saying to the public that you are expecting to get state matching funds to match the money that you are busily spending on projects that voters did not approve. And now we know there are no state matching funds. But none of you talked about it because you are all bound and determined to spend the money on the projects that the 5 of you picked and did not give to the voters to vote on. After the voters voted to spend the money on all our local schools, all of you, on your own, without public input, picked 5 actually new projects, including a 3-story building on the UCR campus that you dare to call a public high school, although it does not meet the criteria, the state criteria for public high schools. And a new school for Spring Mountain where the developer didn't donate the land, so you bought it instead, and it wasn't on the list either. So why is the money from Measure O going to those projects? And none of you are talking about that, and none of you have talked about what are you going to do now you don't have state matching money. Are you going to go forward and spend $128 million of our money on the projects that 5 of you picked with no voter input? Are you going to do that? How about at the next board meeting, the board comments talk about what you're going to do now? Because what you're doing and have been doing is actually a felony, the misappropriation of public funds. And it needs to stop, and we told you we are not going to go away.
Thank you. Next will be...
I still have 3 seconds left. Silence is awkward, isn't it? That's what the police do.
No, you were 3 seconds over.
No, I wasn't.
Now we will have Bronwyn Lebo. Is that right? Is it Bronwyn? Yes. Thank you.
Hi. Thank you all for your service on the school board. I didn't bring any prepared speech or anything. I admire the eloquence of the speakers, and I also have missed a lot of the meeting. I came tonight because I've been reading about incidents in our schools that involve racist hate speech and symbolisms of hatred in the schools. And I've been looking at these news items for evidence of a decisive response from our leadership in the schools. And I see mention of synergy workshops or something like that around Martin Luther King High School. I saw a little bit more kind of extensive discussion in the recent stories about Earhart. But I didn't see a word I would like to see personally. I would like to see the word anti-racism in these conversations. I would like to see our district take seriously the idea of of something along the lines of an anti-racist workshops that we might put into our schools. Because these incidents that I'm seeing are very, very deeply alarming. And it's alarming to me to think about students feeling unsafe in their own schools, feeling like they're not sure if their teachers really support them or see them as less or not. Because when things like this happen and the leadership response is ambiguous or not clear in condemning what is this hate speech when it happens, then I think that can leave students feeling deeply unsettled and unsure of their place in the community. And that makes me feel very worried about our students who are in this situation. And I wanted to just voice support. I know in other districts there are people who are hired to run anti-racist workshops in the schools. And I think that this would send a signal of the commitment to really address this issue in a meaningful way. And so I would just put that on the table. If someone else has suggested it, I'm sorry for being repetitive, but maybe it's good to just say it again if so. Thank you very much.
Thank you.
Mrs. Alavi, can I request that perhaps if Ms. Lebo was not here when Dr. Hansen made his comments, that perhaps you can get a copy of Dr. Hansen's comments, and he addressed many of those things that you said. I think you came in after that, so he addressed many of those things. So perhaps we can get a copy of that.
Thank you. Excellent idea. Okay, now we are going to have our group district reports, and we're going to start with Mr. David Watering, President of the Riverside City Teachers Association.
That's okay. I think I figured it out. That's all right. I've got a 2-year-old grandson that can teach me to do things on my iPhone, so I've been watching him. Good evening, Board President Alavi, Dr. Hansen, and members of the board. The recent events at Martin Luther King Jr. High School and Amelia Earhart Middle School serve as a reminder that we need each other more than ever. Collectively, we must continue to engage staff, students, parents, and community so our schools become places where all are accepted, supported, and valued. Together, we need to continue to speak out and stand up against the behaviors that make others feel less than and unsafe in our schools. Collaboratively, we need to continue to work to provide all who serve our students with the support needed to address issues from a position of proaction rather than reaction. We are stronger together. One of our CTA's roles in nurturing a sense of togetherness is to build the capacity of its members by taking advantage of the rich professional development opportunities offered by CTA and NEA. By the end of the association's fiscal year, we will have sent 160 members to conferences that will improve pedagogical practice and develop skills that will positively impact school sites, classrooms, and students. We recognize that professional development is an ongoing process that spans a teacher's career from beginning to end. Our members have given up their weekend time to attend conferences both near and far. At those conferences, they have engaged in learning provided by teacher members from our local area, state, and national associations, and have returned to their classrooms with immediately implementable strategies that improve learning for all. Likewise, RUSD willingly engages stakeholders through a wide variety of groups. Advisory committees like APAC, DLAC, and others give parents a forum for two-way communication. Task forces and advisory committees like the Equity Task Force and the LCAP Advisory allow a wider swath of our community, including small business owners, local colleges, universities, and city officials, to be up to date and informed. Employee groups and students are similarly engaged through these groups to ensure their voices are heard and interests are represented. I, for one, am thankful for a strong CTA that is dedicated to the development of its members, as well as the opportunities provided by the district to collaborate with our community. Part of the California Teacher Association's mission is to, quote, advance the cause of free, universal, and quality public education and ensure that the human dignity and civil rights of all children and youth are protected. I believe that this mission is achieved through the continued collaboration and collective action of all three employee associations, the district, and the community. When I think about the work ahead of us, the following African proverb resonates with me. If you want to go quickly, go alone. If you want to go far, go together. At this time, it is important that we continue to go together for the sake of all the children we serve. Thank you for your time this evening.
Thank you, Mr. Watering. And now a report from Mr. Michael Gull, President of the Riverside Association of Managers, RASM.
Good evening, President Alvey, members of the board, members of cabinet, Dr. Hanson. Again, my sincere pleasure this evening to share some of our recent activities on behalf of RASM. During the month of February, RASM conducted its nomination and election process for its open positions on our board. We have a great number of RUSD managers that were nominated and chose to run for these positions, and we'll be excited to announce our newly constructed board for the 2021 school year in our upcoming RASM newsletter, scheduled to go out the week of March 16th through March 20th. We'll make sure that you do get a copy of that. Once confirmed, our newly put together board for 2021 will be scheduled to represent our RUSD certificated and classified managers at AXA's Region 19 Summer Leadership Symposium, scheduled in Palm Springs for June 19th through 21st. Also in this month of February, or past month of February, RASM's Vice President of Local Advocacy and our Chief Academic Officer, Lynn Carmenday, traveled to Sacramento with Mace Kakish, our RUSD Chief Business Official, members of the board, and also in partnership with Corona Norco School District, to meet with key educational leaders and policymakers to discuss our regional and district needs around ideas such as base funding, special education, career technical education, and very importantly, our social emotional wellness of our children in K-12. At the beginning of March, RASM heard back from Region 19 concerning our Management Award nominees for 1920. We had a very competitive grouping of managers who were submitted for consideration at the regional level. From RUSD's Instructional Support Division, Steve Harwood will be recognized as AXA Region 19's Technology Administrator of the Year. In addition, we also had an RUSD student recognized again for AXA's Every Succeeding Student Award, a senior from Ramona High School, Julia Melendez-Hiriart. Both Mr. Harwood and Ms. Hiriart will be recognized at the upcoming spring celebration for AXA being held on Wednesday, April the 22nd at Riverside Convention Center. I have provided registration information to Mrs. Martin and Mrs. Anderson to assist you and members of extended cabinet with attendance. This month, RUSD will be hosting its spring professional development event next week on Tuesday, March 17th. The event is entitled From Your Pocket to the Classroom, a presentation on school funding. The featured speaker will be our very own Mays Kakish, Chief Business Official, who will be giving a 90-minute professional development session to our RUSD managers, confidentials, school site administration, administrative designees, teachers, and any interested classified staff members. Coming up in April, RASM's Vice President of Legislative Action, Gage Middle School Principal Gary Reller, will be representing our Management Association at Legislative Action Day, being held in Sacramento on the 19th and 20th of April. He's been actively preparing with our colleagues in Region 19 and Region 12 to lobby our policymakers on key educational issues facing not only our district, but again, our region. Coming up in May, we'll be conducting 2 events. The first is we'll be providing support to the 2020 Educational Summit, which will be held at Victoria Country Club on Friday, May 1st, where Jose Medina, our Assemblyman, Senator Richard Roth, as well as our esteemed State Superintendent of Public Education Instruction, Tony Thurmond, will be presenting on key educational issues facing our region and public education in California. And finally, the second piece in May will be our RASM Spring Celebration, where we honor this year's management retirees from RUSD and bestow the Managers of the Year with their formal awards. This event will take place on Thursday, May 7th, and we'll be sure to get the information to all of you in Extended Cabinet for registration as it becomes available from our Programs Director. And finally, RASM for some time has been reassessing its financial structures, especially in the area of membership, and it's been some time since our association has taken action on any financial increases or structural adjustments. Desiring to stay sound and afford more professional growth opportunities and social opportunities for our membership, will be changing its practices beginning in 2021 and forward, as we'll bring out a new dues platform that will be launching for July 1 as we go into our leadership symposium on June 4th and 5th. As more of that comes together, we'll be certain to bring that forward to you. It's been my pleasure this evening to share with you some of our activities. I look forward to sharing more in our report in early May. Have a great rest of your evening.
Thank you so much.
Thank you.
And now a report given by Ms. Jessica Shields, President of the African American Parent Advisory Council, APAC.
Hello, good evening. Good evening, Board President Kathy Allaby, Dr. Hanson, and the board members. Thank you for this opportunity to report out on behalf of APAC. So I just want to talk about good stuff. So, Heritage Student Celebration. During our March 17th meeting, we will be recognizing several students within the Heritage Program, spotlighting their academic achievement and social and community engagement. We want to ensure that we are celebrating excellence in order to positively impact our students and to build a stronger community. So as you all know, the Heritage Program was founded in the notion that it takes a village to raise a child, and it truly does. The work of Heritage for the 2019-2020 school year grew to include the support and expertise of Blue Educational Foundation. So as APAC presidents, or APAC parents, we are very satisfied with what we've seen thus far from our partnership with Blue, and would like to see this relationship continue next school year. We also appreciate the vision of Dr. Hanson and Dr. Lewis and bringing Blue into RUSD. And we appreciate Rochelle Kanatsar also for fortifying this relationship so that our students and our children can reap those benefits. Black History Celebration Art and Essay Contest. So we completed our first Black History Art and Essay Contest, and we'll be honoring the winners at the March 17th celebration. We invite all of you to join us in this huge celebration that will be held at Sierra Middle School from 6 to 7:30 p.m. We had several wonderful entries. However, we were only able to select one winner from each category. And so I want to announce those winners today, and they've already been notified. So for the art contest, K3, Jalen Karina of Mountain View Elementary. 4th through 6th grades, Riley Ben of Pachapa Elementary. 7th through 8th grades, Adani Ahmad of Riverside STEM Academy. And 9th through 12th grade, Charlotte Petty of Ramona High School. So for the essay contest, the winners for grades 4 through 6, Genevieve Younglove of Riverside STEM Academy. 7th through 8th grade, Leticia Velasquez of University Heights Middle School. And 9 through 12, Robert Shields of Poly High School. And we wanted to give special recognition to 2 teachers in the district that really jumped in and solicited participation from their entire class. So that would be Miss Amanda Garcia of Rivera Elementary and Miss Renee Brandenburg of Raincross High School. All winners, again, have been notified. So speaking of notifications and unification and working together, let's talk about We Are One, Somos Unos. We're back. We have been working in collaboration with the PTA and DLAC to bring all parent groups together under one shared vision centered around equity in the district. By coming together as one collective unit, we hope to affect change for all students on RUSD. So on March 9th, Dr. Walker set the tone for the work that is to be done. And the goal really is equitable results. We think about equitable opportunities, but really, we really want equitable results. We want to close those gaps. We want to be that district that people come in to see what we're doing because of our results and our outcome. So the next follow-up dates, if you couldn't make the last one, the first one, which was Monday, then we have April 2nd and April 27th. Come on out, guys. These work group sessions will be held at Ramona High School in the cafeteria from 6 to 8. Dinner will be served, and we hope to see you there. We look forward to your support as a Riverside community. Everyone is welcome. Thank you for your time.
Thank you very much. Now we have some Board of Education subcommittee reports, and I'm going to go ahead and start with our Operations Board subcommittee meeting. We started with a funding update. Staff provided an update on projects submitted to the Office of Public School Construction, and we reviewed state funding applications for Group A through C, including projects from 2016 to 2018. 26 projects are now in line, and 9 are now in process. And we have estimated state funding for the 35 projects of $65.901 million. High school projects, we reviewed a few of those under Prop 13, but as Ms. Pepper pointed out, Prop 13 didn't pass, so I'm going to skip over that. We then reviewed Alcott Elementary school project update, and we talked about all the additional work that we have earmarked for Alcott, and we intend to get more of a detailed budget on the Alcott project. The project is anticipated to be shovel-ready for construction starting June 2021. Committee recommended that staff coordinate community and staff meetings to communicate timelines and provide updates, because a lot of people have been asking about the Alcott project. And finally, we addressed the Martin Luther King High School fields update. Remember, we had a gentleman come by the board meeting a couple meetings back to complain about the fields, and we recognize that the fields are in sort of not the best shape because Martin Luther King suffers from really, really poor soil. And we're using poor soil. It's a kind of a DG plus reclaimed water, and they get high usage. The only real way to address the fields at King would be to put in a whole new drainage system, which at this point in time is not in the budget. So we are going to add fertilization and seeding and continue maintenance and repair. And we are going to do more close assessments to see if we can maintain the field without the holes that the gentleman complained about. Are there any other questions for operation? Ms. Pepper, do you have any comments?
First, I want to apologize. You were right. I misread this. I had stood there silently while 3 minutes passed. So thank you for pointing out it was time for me to leave. I apologize again. Now I will pay better attention to how to read this. So I wanted to comment on this particular report without knowing exactly what it was going to be, because Mr. San Martin, who is the assistant superintendent in charge of operations, is one of the people who's been going around to community meetings and telling people, as they express their concerns about their projects, not to worry, there will be state funding that will take care of all these projects. So I'm glad you have some state funding for some things. But I think at the next report, it would be a good idea to explain exactly which projects can no longer go forward because you're not going to get the state funding you were expecting. Because I think the people who've been worried about this are entitled to know exactly which of their projects are not going to be completed if you continue to spend the money on the projects you all decided on but we didn't vote for. Thank you.
Thank you. And now we will have an update on the Board Marketing Communications Subcommittee with Mr. Brent Lee.
Mrs. Lock-Dawson is the chair of that.
Oh, I'm sorry. I'm sorry, Ms. Lock-Dawson.
That's fine. We swap every once in a while. We decide who gets to be chair. So I guess it was my turn this week. So we just discussed a couple things, and I know we're going to hear more today in one of our agenda items regarding our marketing plan. But one of the things we talked about was spent most of the time on our themes for our State of the District, which we have set for October 22nd, 2020. And we will, we talked about some potential themes, which will be coming back to the board. And also, I think we probably want to hear from the public if those are the kinds of things they'd like to hear about. But three top ones we discussed were equity and diversity. That was number 1. 2, community engagement. And 3, civic engagement. So those three things will have, we'll focus on some of the exemplary and interesting programs that we have going on in our RUSD under those 3 headings. And at the next subcommittee meeting, we're going to be looking at a storyboard to talk about how the event will go. Additionally, we received an update from Nick Hammer and Richard Prince on the RUSD website, which has been undergoing updates and improvements because it's so huge. It's quite the Herculean effort to get it done. So working on it slowly but surely, and I think you should just go look at it before I go into all the things, but trying to sort of standardize things and make it just as easy to use on your phone as it is on the laptop. So, Mr. Lee, do you have anything to add? Okay, that's it. Thank you.
Thank you very much. Anybody else have any other questions? Okay. Ms. Pepper, would you like to make a comment?
Well, I actually attended that subcommittee meeting because I and other people are interested in seeing how the $500,000 you guys have decided to spend on marketing is going to still apparently be spent as you are looking at serious financial problems. That's one reason I came tonight, because that's on the agenda too. The marketing people are going to be here with their presentations. So in terms of that subcommittee meeting, one of the things that I and other people noticed as it was going on is, why would people either move to Riverside or else drive their children several hours back and forth in order to attend an RUSD school based on marketing, on billboards and ads and whatever you pay a PR person to do for you? Don't most people move to a city because they have a job there and they try to find the best school district and live in that school district, but they don't necessarily move to a city because of marketing? And I doubt too many people will drive many hours and spend a lot of money on gas based on $500,000 spent on marketing. Now, I'm going to talk later on about the real problem with this whole thing, which is this contract that you guys signed is an invitation to third-party vendor fraud. I've already sent you all emails about that, but I'm going to bring it up again. Because after I sent the emails, I finally found out after spending a couple of months asking Ms. Kakish, you know, this contract says it's supposed to have the names of 2 people who are responsible for overviewing the estimates and the budgets and then doing all these different things, and it doesn't have any names in it. Whose names are missing? I had to figure it out on my own and then confront her, and she finally admitted that she's the person in charge of all that $500,000. She's the one who not only wrote the contract, which didn't have her name in it, and she's the one who presented it to you and asked you to approve it, and she's the one who's going to approve the estimates and the budgets, and she's the one who can also approve the vouchers from third-party vendors whose names we don't even know when they come in to be paid. And the limit on the money that she can send out to pay these things is pretty high. So this whole setup is an invitation to third-party vendor fraud, and you're sitting there smiling while you are bleeding money, and you aren't getting any state money, and I hope you are not going to go forward with this contract. I hope you're going to back out of it instead of spending money on billboards, because our schools need the money for actual real buildings and real teachers and real equipment, not billboards.
Okay, now we will address the consent calendar. Do I have a motion, Mr. Hodnett?
Yes. I'd like to pull items on the consent, L63 and L64.
Very good.
Second.
I have a second. Let us.
Are you voting to approve the rest of the consent?
Yes.
So we'll take a motion to approve the consent agenda minus L63 and L64. Please vote. Yes, that does pass. Thank you very much. And now can we address L63 and L64, please?
I'll motion to approve L63 and 64.
Thank you. Do I have a second? Okay, it has been moved and seconded. Please vote. Thank you. That does pass. And we will move to our action calendar. Our first item up is Dr. Hanson, if you would take us through the Board of Education considering the 2020 California School Boards Association delegates for subregion 18A.
Yes, thank you. This is an annual event, of course. Just to remind you, school districts that are over 30,000 in student enrollment can take action and appoint people to represent us in the region, and we've done that. That has been Mr. Trustee Tom Hunt and Patricia Locke-Dawson. We recently did it to where Dr. Fruch will join Mr. Hunt, and his term starts April the 1st. What's before you this evening, these 6 districts, if you're less than 30,000 student enrollment, you need to have the seats taken to the rest of the region. And so this evening, these are 5 of those candidates. You can see that where they're at, there's 6 different votes that you can take, and if you wanted to write anyone else in, you could. But this action is to respectfully ask you to take requests to approve approve those colleagues and the smaller districts to also be joining us in Region 18A to represent with the state.
Thank you. Any comments?
So there's only 5 candidates for 6 slots then?
That is correct.
So a motion to approve all the candidates then.
There's a motion. Do I hear a second? There's a motion and a second. Any further discussion? Let's vote on that. Oh, okay. Thank you. That does pass. And now we are moving on to our branding concept for marketing campaign, and Ms. Kakish.
Good evening, Madam President, Dr. Hanson, members of the board. We are now at the creative part of our meeting, and I'm here to introduce to you a product as a team in the communication committee, along with the communication department staff and several stakeholders that were involved, had come up to this recommendation to you today. So I will be calling on our partners, where are they, to come and be closer. In the first row, please. And I'd like to just give a little bit of a background of how this all started. So back the last several years, we have been experiencing several different factors of declining enrollment that is, for districts, it has an impact on our funding and our community as a whole. And so the factors are related to lower birth rate in the whole state, actually, and families leaving the state of California, families leaving Riverside in particular for more affordable housing. So there's a lot of different factors that were studied, along with different options for students to have within our city, such as charter schools and private schools. All of these factors gotten us to reduce our enrollment by approximately 2,500 just in the last 5 years. And so 2,500 students decline. We understand there's a lot of it that has to do to factors that are beyond our control, but there is some of the factors that we can impact. And so we had brainstormed ideas to what can we do about retaining students in our district and attracting students that are within our district boundaries to choose Riverside Unified School District as their school district of choice. And so with that, a research was authorized back in 2018 with, if you remember, the company FM3 that did quantitative type of research for us. They had focus groups of parents that send their students to our district, parents that choose to take their students to private schools or charter schools or schools outside of our district, and conducted some quantitative data to let us know the reasons behind keeping them in or taking them out. A lot of that was summarized, and once that process was done, we engaged in trying to do more of a qualitative process through Mirroring, which is the company that was selected by the Communication Committee. And so that process took place with a lot of guidance from our Communication Committee. I know both members of the committee can also jump in, please, to give some background regarding the process and how Mirroring was selected. And they both were in chairman capacity in both of those years, because we've been working on this for 2 years before we start actually the process. Would any of our members like to comment on this?
There was a application process, and several marketing companies applied for the opportunity. They were vetted by staff. Some were invited. I don't know how many we ended up with, 6 or 8 were invited to pitch the staff and the committee, and then the process was narrowed from there. And then, if you all recall, last year the company that was selected, Marion Carson at the time, came to the board and presented their pitch, the same pitch that we heard. And so it was unanimous between the committee and staff that this firm had some of the best ideas, some creative strategies in which to tackle some of the issues, and they were really passionate about working with RUSD and a public school to try to help solve some of our challenges.
Would you like to add anything to that? Okay. So our objectives for today is for our partners to present to you the options that were narrowed down by the Communication Committee, and give us the direction on the next steps. So I'd like to invite to the podium our partners from Mirroring, Scott Conaway, our creative director, and Cheryl Ryan, our account supervisor, to introduce themselves and take us through the next part of the presentation.
Thank you, Mace. I'm Cheryl Ryan. I'm the account supervisor working with RUSD at Mirroring. Scott, you can come up here if you'd like. I appreciate you guys letting us come and present the creative ideas tonight. This is really the fun and emotional part of the project, to be able to bring it forward. As Maze mentioned, a lot of research has been done and went into this. What we've done now, and the step that we're at now, is we've taken that research and we've looked at how to bring it to life in a creative way. So what you will see here are concepts, and I just want to reiterate that there are concepts. None of the pieces that you're looking at here are final. They are merely suggestions or looks at a concept and how it might be brought to life based on what the future or the next steps of the project then turn into. I am going to turn it over to Scott Conway, who will walk us through the two concepts.
Thank you. As Cheryl said, my name is Scott Conway. I'm the creative director of Marrying, the Northern California office, and I'll be walking you through these concepts. The first one of these branding campaigns is entitled Building an Extraordinary Community. At RUSD, we believe in giving our students the tools they'll need to not only survive in life, but to thrive in it. By doing our part to help build up our students' confidence to tackle whatever life throws their way, ultimately, we're helping our whole community to rise up. This is what we call a mood board. Essentially, we put this together to kind of get a sense of the type of imagery we would like to use. It helps the teams kind of start to build how the type's going to look on page. But again, as Cheryl mentioned, these are just concepts at this moment. If there's a color you dislike or if there's a picture that doesn't agree with you, by all means, we can change it. I'm going to eat more carrots after this meeting. Okay, so this is what we sort of call display. And by no means are we suggesting that any one medium is the right medium. We've included radio, we've included video scripts, we've included print ads like you see here, or display, and outdoor as well. And it really is just designed to give you a sense of how the campaign feels and what the language around it is. So this is an example headline: when they grow, we all grow. If there's one thing we know about kids, it's this: the well-prepared ones tend to do well, a whole lot of good in return. So we figured that helping prepare our students to face whatever life throws their way makes a whole lot of sense, not just for them, but also for their families, heck, for the world. So we offer a diverse curriculum and teach collaborative learning to ensure that all of their academic needs are being met. We also work closely with each child's family to address any pressing social, psychological, or emotional needs too. Because when they grow, we all grow. Now, doesn't that sound like fun? Building an extraordinary community. RUSD, be extraordinary. Again, these are just a number of headlines like you saw in the last slide, just kind of building out sort of the language around this idea. Our children are a reflection of us all. As you saw in the last one, when they grow, we all grow. Off to kindergarten today, off to whatever life throws their way tomorrow. Extraordinary communities are built from the child up. So this is, again, just some of the language. If this is our future, we're good. Take them seriously and just think what they'll give in return. A well-prepared child, what more can we hope for? These are some of the video scripts that we've put together. This first 30-second video is entitled Extraordinary. And this is using existing and a combination of stock footage along with existing things that have already been collected. We'll show K through 12 kids having a range of experiences in the classroom, playing sports and participating in various extracurricular activities like the arts, music, tutoring, etc. And the VIA, which is a voiceover, reads, "It takes an extraordinary education to build a child up, to raise her confidence, to help him connect with others, to teach her resilience when things don't come easy, because things rarely do. It takes an extraordinary education to foster his creativity, to fulfill her endless wonder, to teach him kindness and respect by showing it, and to empower her to be whatever she wants to be. And when you build a child up, what you really do is elevate a community to new heights." Building an extraordinary community. RUSD, be extraordinary. We also wanted to throw in, quote unquote outdoor. This is an example of a lawn sign. If people wanted to rally around the idea, building an extraordinary community, this kind of gives the look and feel and how we connect it to the logo. And then extraordinary, this is a 30-second radio spot. So something in the world of anthemic instrumental slowly builds in intensity as we hear the voiceover say, it takes an extraordinary education to build a child up, to raise her confidence, to help him connect with others, to teach her resilience when things don't come easy, because they rarely do. It takes an extraordinary education to foster his creativity, to fulfill her endless wonder, to teach him kindness and respect by showing it, and to empower her to be whatever she wants to be. At Riverside Unified School District, we know that by building a child up, what we're really doing is building an extraordinary community. RUSD, be extraordinary. Learn more at riversideunified.org. And then I'll skip this last one. Okay, on to the second idea, RUSD, be extraordinary. At RUSD, we believe that preparing kids to reach their potential means educating the whole child. We do this by teaching them both the academic and non-academic skills they'll need to thrive in whatever future career they choose to pursue. This campaign was built off the idea of showing kids in their future careers, as well as using these background elements that you see in the upper left-hand corner and lower right-hand corner. Obviously, we want diversity is important in all of our campaigns to reflect the RUSD, the school district itself. Here's a display ad. Who knows what their future holds? We do. All children dream of growing up to be something. But while nobody knows exactly what their future holds, we're feeling pretty great about our students' outlook. Because we not only give each child a quality education, we also fuel their creativity. And we nurture their interests while teaching them empathy, kindness, and respect. Together, these are the skills they'll need to thrive in the real world. And when you empower a child by building up their confidence, you can probably guess what kind of future they'll build for themselves. RUSD, be extraordinary. Here's a secondary ad, not just ready, world ready. Then we move on and basically show the variety of children that we could use. These are all what we call stock images that are found on the internet. We did not shoot these images, but you can see a construction worker, a musician, a public health worker, doctor, pilot, accountant, photographer. How they see themselves depends a lot on us. We're not suggesting we would use the same headline on all these as well. We just wanted to compare apples to apples. Some other headlines that we could use: extraordinary futures start here, not just ready, world ready. How they see themselves depends a lot on us. Who knows what their future holds? We do. We can't see into the future, but we feel pretty good about theirs. And always followed up with RUSD, be extraordinary. Okay, so these are essentially some opportunities for 6-second videos, something a bit shorter as opposed to always relying on 30 seconds. We realize that people's attention spans tend to get a little bit shorter these days. This first one is called An Accountant, and we open on a young African-American boy dressed in a sweater vest and a bow tie. On a monochrome background through parallax animation. Essentially, that's bringing a still image to life through animation. It appears that he is raising a calculator up to his chest, that a super animates, and this is the super being the words that come on screen. We can't see into the future, but we feel pretty darn good about theirs. RUSD, be extraordinary. And we carry this through from showing young children dressed as an accountant or an electrician or a doctor, and then using these VOs like our students aren't just ready to tackle life, they're prepared to take on the world, and empower a child by building up his confidence, and you can guess what kind of future she'll build. Again, bringing back to the lawn sign that accompanies this campaign, RUSD, be extraordinary. We could also use headlines like extraordinary futures start here on a sign. And then back into radio, this is a spot entitled Questions. Does the world really need another lawyer, another nurse, another teacher? Does the world need another astronaut, another engineer, or another coach? Well, at Riverside Unified School District, we believe the world always needs kind and caring and honest people. And in the future that we envision for our students, character matters. So yes, we focus on academics, but also fueling creativity and nurturing interests. Because we don't just want your child to reach their career potential, we want them to reach their human potential too. RUSD, be extraordinary. Thank you. Sure.
So at this time, I'd like to open it up for questions because we have one more segment after this that related to this presentation.
Oh, okay, thank you. Board members, Dr. Farouk?
Sorry. I have a few questions, and one of my questions is related to that next part about the logo. First of all, I know that these ad efforts are usually, they're intentionally aspirational, emotional, and so forth, and so, but does it ever make sense to reference like actual metrics or data, you know? I mean, like for example, we have the highest graduation rate in the county or things like that. I know, again, that doesn't fit like from an ad standpoint, but is that something that you've, in any of these contexts that you're going to consider as well, actual metrics?
Yeah, I mean, I think that there's certainly space within these campaigns and the flexibility to include what we would call copy points. If you had something specific that you wanted to put forward or out there as part of what we call the body copy, or whether in a radio spot or in a display ad, depending on what the medium is, if there were specific things that you wanted to champion your school, we could certainly work those in.
Okay, and I know that some of our students, have signed the disclosures where they're willing to participate in media and so forth. For the students that are interested, we can opt to use actual RUSD students instead of stock photos in these campaigns as well, right?
Currently, what we're working towards is we're working within the budget that's been approved.
Mhm.
So right now, within that budget that's been approved, we're not planning to shoot any additional students. We're looking at using stock photography to be the most efficient within the dollars that we have.
Okay, and
I would like to add to that, there is, as we develop these options, if there is the will to go and reallocate any dollars towards this project, we can also do other things. It is so expensive, and I know it sounds like what we've allocated for this budget seems a lot, and it is a lot of dollars. We've made it on purpose, targeted for this campaign, because we do believe that our district needs a marketing plan and needs the vision that we have. At that time, we had thought about this budget to be enough for us to carry on the campaign. As we went further into this project, I think we saw that it's so expensive to have an ad on TV or an ad on the radio. If we are going to do some of that, we cannot go and also spend dollars on shooting some of the actual footage live, because that's also a lot of dollars that's targeted. So we tried to kind of pick some of the pieces and use something that's already been used. But that doesn't mean that's concrete. There's also an opening to try to reallocate dollars there.
okay, I think there's some instances where if it's just like a voiceover or something, maybe that makes more sense to include a RUSD. Wherever that's feasibly can be applied, I think we should take that into consideration.
Yeah, absolutely. And I would add that we are aware of the large library of imagery that has already been shot amongst a number of different schools. And if we were to get into, video, then we could certainly, while the video is talking, we can cut to existing footage as opposed to trying to have to create new footage.
And I know we're going to get into this in a moment, but the logo refresh, are we saying that it would actually spell out, if we were to adopt that, the Riverside Unified School District in these branding and the logo itself, or it would just say RUSD?
Should I just go into it real quick, the logo? And
Well,
then
I
we can
actually
keep-
have a question, so
Okay.
let's hold off on the logo.
Okay,
talk,
that's fine. I'll hold off on that one.
Because I had a question.
I'll just finish real quick then. I did want to hear from what the recommendation from the marketing committee is also, but then the last two questions I have, one is for Tim Walker, actually. The whole basis of this is about driving student participation and retaining of students, obviously. approximately how many students currently, because we've branded ourselves as a district of choice, already come from outside of our RUSD boundaries to RUSD?
My understanding, I'd have to check, but it was around 1,400 students here through the district of choice, and then there's also more that come through the inter-district transfer process.
Approximately how many?
2,200 altogether.
So we already have attracted 2,200 students that otherwise would not be in the school district based on, people learning about our programs and wanting to transfer here and so forth. Obviously, that's very notable and in terms of the economic implications of it, as well as our students interacting with people from diverse backgrounds. So that's even without having done these efforts, and that's the whole point of wanting to promote these, is to reinforce that kind of traction that we've already seen of people wanting to come from outside the district.
I always look at trying to attract students from different districts is a byproduct of this. It's really the other 2,200 that leave our district.
Right,
so
right.
The inter-district transfers that come to our district are actually just offsetting the ones that we lose sometimes, because some of our own families think surrounding districts have better programs or better gyms in their school districts, and we're trying to actually inform our own community that we have the same gyms, if not better.
No question, and the retainment aspect is huge. I just wanted to make the broader point that we already have demonstrable data to show that this is consequential to make people informed about these things. And I remember we had done some marketing outreach engagement to students that from chronic absenteeism and so forth. And Ms. Kakish, could you just share some of the outcomes when we did that? What kind of attendance it yielded us, which obviously directly correlates to academic performance, as well as ADA obviously affects financial return as well.
Yes, so we engaged into a campaign that's called Attention to Attendance, and it's just on purpose literature that goes out more strategically to our parents at the right time to remind them and give them some data about their child absences. We have raw data, raw report last year to attendance to raw data report this year is 60 absences a day improvement. Mm-hmm. Now, we know that we might not materialize all of that gain because of the coronavirus scare or any other things that are impacting our attendance. But for the most part, it's going to, if not gain ADA, it's going to keep us at least stable with ADA. So yeah, that was very much a success, and we're still going to explore even more options.
Thank you for sharing that. Absent my question later about the logo, I just would want to hear the recommendation from the marketing subcommittee. Thank you.
Thank you. Any comments from other board members?
We didn't really have a recommendation. I mean, I know that, they presented these two and additional two, and personally I thought they were all pretty good, and I think they're all going to accomplish the goal that we're looking to accomplish, but we know that every trustee has valuable input to provide, especially in regards to the creativity aspect, so we wanted to make sure that the entire board had the opportunity to chime in and offer any kind of insight they had in regards to the look and the feel and the emotions that are evoked by this plan.
Good. Yeah, we had, I think, a total of four different things presented to us, and some of them were wildly different from what we saw here tonight. And we were trying to stay sort of on message on our past, sort of a nod to the past, but then looking towards the future. And we felt that these two captured that a little bit. But our intent was to bring it to you up here on the board so that, we don't want to move forward with anything without the rest of the board having a chance to see it. But
sure.
And I think, well, I'm not going to speak for our consultants, but my sense is that we're able to kind of work both of them if we need to, if there's elements of it, because we kind of did that before with another one, right?
Yeah, I think it's, at their core, these two campaigns are essentially saying the same thing in a different way. And I think they both speak to the core competencies of RUSD as a school district, and it does it in a supporting, teaching the whole child type of way. So there's certain flexibilities and messaging that we could bring into either one.
So when we were at the last meeting, it was actually 2 meetings ago, we looked at these. You said sort of what you, perhaps one of you could do it better, articulate it better than I, but that sort of what each approach was sort of the feel of, right? Because you have the mood board and you kind of show us, but what is your thought as the designer of the campaign, how those two things substantially differ? We talked about that a little bit, but I would like to hear it from you.
I say this all the time, and especially in the last 10 to 15 years, that brands, regardless of the type of brand that you're talking about, they're not nouns anymore, they're verbs. Like, they are definitely come down to a set of beliefs that you need to communicate out to the world. Is what do you stand for? What do you believe in? Why should people care and why should people listen? I think, and this may get into your question a little bit as well, sir, I do think that one of the goals of an advertising branding campaign is to capture attention. And that being said, I do think that the second campaign that we presented here tonight does a better job in terms of capturing initial attention. Mm-hmm. People will be more drawn to the idea of seeing their kids who are seeing their futures, and what the potential is a very powerful thing. So that gets my vote.
Yeah, thank you.
Mr. Hodnett.
Yeah, I just like to say that I like the second brand, the Be Extraordinary, just because something that stood out to me was when you had said, like, the African-American boy, you know, being a firefighter, not just because he was African-American, but because he was a student of color. I think that was actually very important to, like, you know, to reflect not just the audience, but the people that you're trying to get the message across. So that actually made me pretty happy just seeing that. I know that would be the same reaction for the rest of my peers. And, you know, it's showing the diversity that, you know, our schools have. So I like that, but then also agree with what Dr. Farouk said with having RUSD students there too. Because it'd be really cool to, like, see one of my friends or little brother, little sister on a bill, you know? That's all I'd like to add.
Yeah.
Thank you. I had a couple of questions, and then we can move along and talk about the logo too, because that might also impact some of my questions. Geographically, where do we think that this will be, or I don't know who can answer this question. How broad are we talking about geographically?
Currently, right now, we're working on a parallel path of putting our media plan together of where these assets will run. And we're targeting primarily just the RUSD school district area. Some mediums will go beyond that, such as radio, just based on the audience and listenership. But the primary target area will be RUSD, based on, you know, what Maze's point was about retaining and keeping that message for the people who are leaving the district.
I think that would be good. I'm a little worried about radio. The reason why is because I don't think once you get out of RUSD, I don't think people know necessarily what RUSD stands for. And in fact, if you start going east, everyone's going to think it's Redlands or Rialto. Yeah, thank you.
And that's something that we've kept in mind as well. So a lot of them end with the URL, which has the entire Riverside Unified School District. We tried to make sure that in all of the placements or the copy that we're looking at currently, that we do spell out at least the school district name somewhere. Like we said, these are concepts; they're not final, you know, products.
Right.
All of those
I guess
things,
you work out those things.
Yeah,
in
all
the
those things will
final
be
thing.
detailed, and we don't know for sure either if radio will be in the final mix either. So.
Right, because I was going to ask where a 6-second video is ever even used.
So the 6-second ad, I know it seems ridiculous, but
Yeah.
these are what we call unskippable formats. So in a digital environment, like, say, a pre-roll ad in front of a YouTube video that someone's watching, it can't be skipped.
Oh, it's a social media kind of thing.
Correct.
Oh, of
Right.
course. That's why I didn't know what it meant. Okay. Again, if you broaden that geographic area, then I'd really need to have people to have stressed the riverside. Otherwise, we're really going to lose them and all that. And I also had the same question about stock photos. I know we've taken, we hired a photographer who took beautiful pictures, which we blew up into at our office, right at our district office. So I think we have not only video, but I think we do have some riverside photos.
So you're
as well.
right. We have a lot of our stock that could be used. What we don't have are the ones that are in certain uniform, like in a doctor or astronaut.
Yeah, I get it.
Yeah.
I get it. Okay, why don't we go ahead and look at the logo, and then we'll have more questions.
Okay, so as we went through this process, if we were to select an option today, we would like to take the opportunity and refresh our logo in a way that I would like to invite our own Nick to describe why our current logo is challenging and how we would like to go about refreshing it. So, Mr.
How exciting to be up here. Dr. Hanson on the board. So, just this real quick. I've been working here for about 2 years now in October, and this past October, and I've been working with our logo and developing the brand out, and we've developed all of our colors and fonts and all of those things. But the logo has been consistently somewhat of a challenge for me, and I know other people throughout the district that use it, such as publications. So it's a little bit hard to, I'm glad I have the opportunity to speak, because I was worried about giving Mays this information.
How a business numbers person describe that?
Well, it's hard to describe like what expanding the logo means. So for one, if you were to take the logo apart in Illustrator, which is the design program we use to create logos, you can see that the way that it's constructed is a lot of different layers, which makes it challenging when you do something like expand it. So when a logo is finalized, you do a process called expanding, which basically means it can stretch to any size without pixelization. So with this logo, when it's expanded, the gradient on the hat becomes transparent, and there's issues with that. The logo has the complicated build, which makes it just a challenge to work with. But the main challenge is that the R and the hat by itself cannot really ever be an icon. The hat was kind of built to work and be always on the R as opposed to separate from it. So some of the earlier concepts that we saw with the marketing campaign, they tried to utilize the logo, and it was a challenge that we noted, which made us look into refreshing it. And essentially, a refresh is keeping the brand consistency and honoring all of the stuff that's still in it, but updating it so that it's still recognizable, but those problems would be eliminated by doing that. So as you can see, with this, I think this actually answers your question, Dr. Farouk. We have versions with the text. But this logo essentially takes everything that we had in the original one and draws it in a way that pays homage to our existing logo, but still allows things to be separated. So you can see the hat was reconstructed so that it could be a standalone icon and still include the rain cross, but in a way that makes sense. So instead of being placed somewhere like inside of the R, it's become a part of the tassel. We've used the same color palette that we kind of had built out from before developing the brand out that was existing to kind of play with it. But when this is expanded, this is a true vector file that's going to be easy to work with whoever uses it.
So I just want to add that we've used all these versions before in different formats, like letterhead versus a document versus a box versus, and then what we're trying to do is make sure that we continue to stay flexible for all of our needs to have the different options for different materials.
Dr. Farouk.
Thank you. So I understand that you want to have a monochrome kind of logo and its applicability and all that. And I think the rain cross tassel is a very clever way of integrating that. My only comment was about, I know that this spells it out, and I see that this is what's being applied, and I think this is fantastic. I was just saying in the context of the marketing campaign, because we would have the options to using this for the mediums that the branding campaign would it transfer to that, and because really was just echoing what Trustee Alavi said, that RUSD as a standalone to me is just not, it does not make sense. And so even if the whole name Riverside Unified School District, again, not because this for internal usage, we can always use this, but again, I'm talking about for those mediums. I don't know if even just saying Riverside Schools, if we have to keep it short. I know that there's another school district in Riverside, but granted, since Riverside is in the name of our school and it's like 80% of the city, it might still serve its purpose. I'm only suggesting that in the sense if the amount of words in the logo itself is an issue for those mediums. I just wanted to get a reaction to that.
Yeah, no, I like to include the name too to clear up any miscommunication. So I actually think that the printed piece that I put that I have for you guys shows the various versions of the logo. So we currently have, our brand has like the Be Extraordinary variation right now, the spelled out variation. So basically we would be replacing all of that. So technically the spelled out version could be utilized in the advertising efforts if that was the desire.
And from your perspective, Riverside Unified School District all being spelled out would not detract from the overall, the medium and the conciseness of the message you want to.
No, I don't think so. I mean, I think from a visual standpoint, utilizing this logo is absolutely no problem. I mean, it works much better in our opinion. But also, when we're using this in video, keeping that up there is easy. If we're talking about just spoken, then obviously Riverside Unified School District is a longer word, so it would just, we'd have to shave from somewhere else to make sure that we get the full amount of words in there, but I mean, there's plenty of words to go around, so. Yeah.
That was my biggest concern.
Great. Any other feedback we can give them?
I'd like to see if you guys have a choice, number 1 or number 2, as a preference. It just gives us guidance to start, and there's, again, nothing prevents us from incorporating other items.
Why don't we take a minute and call a request to address the board?
Sure.
Ms. Pepper?
Before I begin, I'd like to be clear. Is that the end of the presentation, or are we still in the middle of it?
We still have to discuss it. Would you prefer waiting until after we discuss it?
No, if there's no more presentation?
No.
Okay, then I will comment. Well, I was sitting there listening and thinking, this reminds me of the aphorism, fiddling while Rome burns. You are not getting money you expected to get. You have serious problems because you've basically used up most of your emergency money, and yet you're talking about continuing to spend more than $500,000. I want to give Mrs. Alibi credit because she is the only person who did not vote in favor of this contract. Mrs. Locke-Dawson, however, as you were bringing up, you didn't know what you were really going to get from this, said, it's getting late, let's go home, and made a motion to end the discussion, which was seconded and passed, and therefore we have this contract, which was missing important information, like who was it who's supposed to do all this stuff? Mrs. Kockish is the one whose name was missing, and she's the one who drafted the contract, so she knew very well her name should be in there, but she left it out. That's a whole separate issue. So it's more than $500,000, and here's why. This contract puts you, the district, on the hook to pay third-party vendors invoices when they come in. And there's no limit on what they might be. Do you understand, people? You have to pay this firm for the contract and the work, but you also agreed to pay and hold them harmless for paying the third-party vendors they're signing up to do all this work. So if they make contracts to get, and you did notice the slide with the billboards on it, right? They are planning to do billboards, and you know how much a billboard costs? This is expensive. You could end up being billed for all kinds of money you're not even expecting. Do you not realize what trouble you're getting into here? You guys, you are not running a business. A business brings money in. It makes money by advertising. You are not a business. You are a government entity, and you are the trustees. The trustees are supposed to safeguard the money you have. Safeguarding the money means not wasting it by spending it on things where you don't even know how much it's going to end up costing you. You are trustees. You're not the CEO of a business, and you're not making money. You are not advertising to make money. You think you might get some more students by doing this, but what if you don't? And let me tell you, would I bring my children here based on these ads? If I'm a parent, I have an idea of what I think my kid might like to do, and I don't need to have pictures showing me. This is part of me, but it's bullshit. This is all bullshit. It's a way to spend money.
Thank you. All right. Now, board members, let us discuss these different options. Anybody have any feedback to give to the staff? Ms. Lockdown.
Yes, thank you. I do like the second option. I think we talked about that and in our committee meeting, and we thought it was probably the best one to evoke an emotional response. So I would recommend that, but I'd like to hear from the rest of the board.
I like this. I like the second one as well. Okay. It's the Be Extraordinary one. Yeah, I just like how short and simple it is, just right to the point. Yeah, I like the second one.
Very good, Mrs. Lockdawson.
By the way, I wanted to give a shout out to Nick for doing that. I know this looks like a little thing to redo this logo, but it wasn't. It was huge, and I think the beauty and talent of a really, really good graphic designer is the ability to take something and make it look simpler than it is. So Nick deserves a huge amount of credit for all the work he's done, both on this logo, all of our school logos, as well as the website. So thank you, Nick.
Excellent. Anyone else? Well, I too liked the second one better, but a lot of this does depend on how we use it. And since we don't have the plan in front of us, which tells us how it's going to be used, I feel like we are kind of saying, yes, it's a good thought, but I don't know if I can see it in a billboard or a social media post. I don't know how that'll work. So I guess I don't have a complete vision for how this is going to come together. But I do love the new logo. Thank you, Nick. Very nice. I like it a lot better than the other logo. I always thought the other logo, the hat looked like it was falling off. So I really appreciate that. So if you're looking, Dr. Fruit, do you have a point?
Well, I just had a question. I know we're considering to approve the branding concept, but what does that exactly mean? Because like Trustee Alvey said, we don't have an allocation of exactly how
we still have approximately a little over $100,000 left that hasn't been allocated. So once you give, and please jump in to add to my knowledge, because again, this has been a learning curve for all of us as a marketing campaign. But it takes a direction on which option to select to give the ideation team of Marion to come back and give us a plan. It needs this step first before they can actually go and charge their teams to create the plan. If we are wrong on the direction that we're going, really we're wasting their time and we're recreating a lot of, and we don't want to waste any dollars and duplicate any dollars. So that's basically the piece why we kind of interrupted the process to come to you to see if we're on the right direction. We'll be back through the communication committee with a plan to how we're gonna, what can we afford to do? What's gonna be our best bang for our buck?
Okay, so because that's the point I was trying to make, is that we're just voting on the concept, but that what the plan and how the budget will be allocated will come back to us for vote. Okay, that's all I wanted to make sure. I just want to make sure we weren't just giving an overall green light.
Yes, I'm not trying to do any more presentation. I'm trying to clarify some of the items that came up. $500,000 might sound a lot of dollars in a $500 million budget. Gaining or stopping 50 students from leaving our district will actually get us to be breaking even. So from a business perspective, the break-even point is 50 students to choose Riverside and not go to surrounding district charter school, private school, or homeschooling. So that's one. Operating as a business, we're a government entity, definitely government entity. So is DMV. But in order for us to actually continue to attract and retain our customers are our students and our parents, we need to think of our entity as a business, not lose sight of our product and the quality control of our product, which is the students and being career and tech, and college ready and good citizens in our society. Without taking off the quality control of that, we also need to market the business that we're in to get that done. So at least me, from my perspective, wholeheartedly disagree that a government entity cannot be looking at themselves as a business entity in order to continue to have a product that's competitive. In our case, our students need to be competitive in the surrounding area. So that's the logical rationale.
Thank you. Mrs. Lockdawson?
Thank you, Mrs. Alvey, and I agree with you, Mrs. Kakish. I did want to ask, I think it probably to Mrs. Alvey, but we did in the past, I believe, 2 campaigns at RUSD. I think they were before my time or right when I came in. One was the Attend for Success, which was essentially a marketing campaign that upped our attendance. And that was sort of a similar process. We had some help designing a marketing plan to get students right. And then the other one, I think, was our interdistrict transfer when we did District of Choice. And I seem to remember having advertisements in movie theaters and on gas station video things, and both of those yielded results in terms of upping our ADA. So perhaps it would be beneficial, and I don't even know if those data are available, but to look at how, what the efficacy of those things were. So just throwing it out there, and perhaps Ms. Salvey, if you just even anecdotally could weigh in on those things.
Well, I did, definitely, and we even had logos for those campaigns, and they were in the theaters and all the local theaters.
So as we brand our district, I know we're concentrating a lot on the declining enrollment, but it's also attract and retain the best staff to actually teach our students. Branding a district is very necessary for our HR and human resources team to continue their recruitment process to attract and retain the best for our students.
Thank you. Well, I think that the consensus is number 2. And we will hear more when you come back with the plan and how you're actually going to put this together. So that's very good. Is there any further comment? I don't think we need to take a vote on that?
This is an action item.
Okay. Yeah. All right, then I need a motion.
Move approval of number 2.
Do I have a second?
A second.
And Mr. Hodnett seconds. Any further comment? Please vote. All right, thank you.
Thank you for the whole department of the communication team. They took a lot of work off Nick so he can be dedicated for some of this work. And Brandy, as part of that communication plan, and then, of course, the communication committee, I really appreciate it. It's been a 2-year work in progress.
Let me clarify, Mrs. Lockdawson, you did intend that to be a approval of the new logo as well? Yes, and Mr. Hodnett? Yes. Okay. Yes, that includes the new logo too. And we are now going to take a 5-minute break. M3. We are going to be talking about the 2019-20 second period interim report and the positive certification that goes with it. Ms. Kakish.
Good evening again. I'm going to try to go as fast as possible. Please stop me at any slide to ask any questions. We don't have to wait till the whole presentation. This is the second time you're seeing an update to our June adoption budget for the school 1920. So this is the second interim report, means it's the second update to the budget. I do want to start by saying our district is definitely financially solvent. Our district is solvent for the next 5 years if our projections and our assumptions that we're using materialize. So let me share the assumptions with you. When you saw this report back in first interim report, the set of the assumptions are in the white, and what I did is I just updated those assumptions for you in that yellowish column next to it. And we also added the updates for the second 2 years. Under AB 1200, we have to adopt a second interim report with multi-year projections for the year that we're in as a budget and a subsequent 2 years. I just want to refer to the cost of living adjustment change. So at the time we adopted the second interim report, the first interim report, the year 2021, the COLA was supposed to be 3, and it went down to 2.29%, which is the first row. And then 21-22 was supposed to be 2.8, and it went down to 2.71. Cost of living adjustment is a formula driven based on projections of revenue, so it could change again, it could change up, and it could change down. And I'll be happy to answer any questions about any other assumptions. Oops.
Can you talk a little bit about the state teachers' retirement system, how you came up with the figures for 2020, 21, 22? Have we been given those kind of amounts to plan for?
Yes, so state teachers retirement system and the public employee retirement system, which is the second one is for our classified employees and classified management. Those are increases by the state that are published as they publish the January budget. They include in that their increases to the rates. All of these rates have been incorporated in our budget and have our budget solvent for 5 years. So by the time all of them will be implemented, they are all also projected to be in our expenditures.
Excellent. Dr. Farouk.
Thank you, President Alvey. I know that, we're all following what's happening with COVID-19 and the effects that it's having on the economy. I'm assuming this process of this report, was probably happening concurrently when everything was unfolding, so it probably hasn't been factored in. But how are you projecting the effects that would have, because it's definitely going to affect this year's.
So we do believe that with 3-year planning, we're always going to have time to implement any of the changes or adjustments to the budget that we would need to do. So in the year that we're in, if anything changes from the state assumptions, we continue to receive the dollars that we received the year before. Nothing changes. Right now, we're planning, because we are declining enrollment, we already have lesser revenue than the year before. And we've done all of the financial stabilization plan to be able to be ready for that. And so with that, the first year that this happens, any change happen, the state gives you a full year to do the planning for the future 2 years and gives you the same revenue that you projected from the year before. And that's been a mechanism that the state have put in place to stabilize school districts and to give them an opportunity to have a full year of planning. So the second part of that question, so that's how we plan for it. The second part of the question is that the state of California, usually when there is any projection of reduction in revenue, they will issue a report, and most likely the Legislative Analyst Office will issue a report that says, if the coronavirus impact continues for 6 months, we believe our revenue projections will be at this level. If the coronavirus continues for 12 months, we believe our revenue projections will be at this level. They'll give us several different scenarios. By the time we come closer to June and we're adopting the budget for the next 3 years, we'll be able to give you options and the risk factor that comes with each option.
Okay, and I forgot what the other question was. Sorry, go ahead.
It'll come back to you.
I was going to ask you about the LCAP reduction. Is that because of the declining enrollment?
Yes.
Okay.
It's only the piece that's associated with supplemental and concentration grant
right.
For the LCAP.
Okay, thank you.
So this slide tells you the full revenue that we receive as a district. Yes.
He remembers.
Sorry, I just I think that's obviously it's great that the state's structured the funding where we have over a year to adjust if the economy gets affected. The rainy day fund has been touted very frequently. You know that the governor and the state have done. Realistically, how much is that? Would that provide a buffer at the state level of creating continuity, even if there is a disruption?
I know we're trying to be very particular about the time. This is a little bit of a longer answer. If I can go in detail, I can give you the numbers. So the state of California has about a budget of $120 billion. Our budget in it is 40% of that, which is the Proposition 98 guarantee. The rainy fund is only $20 billion that's set aside. So they believe, as the state of California, a minor recession that's projected because of this could deplete the whole $20 billion, and they'll be okay. What happens to school districts and why there has to be a plan is that our 40% now, Proposition 98, will guarantee an amount lesser than that $20 billion, right? So it'll be $100 billion instead of $120. So 40% of $100 billion is now lesser amount. So that's going to happen automatic. That's from a state perspective, and I've asked that question at the last meeting we were with them when we were up in Sacramento. From the state perspective, they've solved their recession downturn with the rainy fund, but they've not taken accountability to what's going to happen to Proposition 98 reduction that's associated with that. And you can see, that will be a local decision here that we will have to bring to you options.
That's very helpful. Thank you.
So this slide just tells you the total revenue that we project to receive as of the second interim, and I'll go in the next two slides to give you an idea of where that additional revenue is coming from. I'll do it by unrestricted and restricted, so we've been doing that for a while now as a pattern. So for the unrestricted side, there's an increase of approximately a little over $4 million, and that is $1.5 million of MA dollars, Medi-Cal activities dollars that we receive and we share with the school sites, and then $2.7 million of state funding as a relief. They've increased some of the special education funding to relieve the contribution from the district from the general fund. So both of those added to the revenue, and you'll see later that we have the expenditures that go with it too. Like if it's MA, we also have projected where those services will go.
Could I ask you a question about that? So usually our special education monies are restricted, but you're saying this additional money that we got is unrestricted?
Yes, they did it in a way that and we're so proud of our legislative platform and the legislative committee actually going for a couple of years now advocating, but it's also the partnership of us and other large districts in the county. And a lot of other big districts, part of the 16 largest districts, are advocating for special ed funding. So the governor listened, and we believe this is one of the first steps towards giving an adequate funding for special education. So we're taking a lot of credit for our legislative work that happened up there.
I think it's important to clarify, or just part of the story, we got more money for special ed. That means that we don't have to pay so much out of the general fund to offset the encroachment. And so it's not that the special ed money is now unrestricted. It's just that we're spending more general ed dollars for special education.
Right. Then we go to the restricted side of the house, and that is the increase in that revenue is mainly Early Head Start, got $150,000 more, and then California Air Resource also got $185,000 in a grant for our district. And this will just give you a pie chart of the visual of our revenue. Majority of our revenue is that LCFF sources, which is dependent on the Proposition 98 funding. If I do a lot of acronyms, stop me, Dr. Hanson, so I can throw M&Ms. Then we go to expenditures, and this is total expenditures. And we've increased in expenditures from first interim to second interim, and it's mainly because we've added revenue to MA, we've added revenue to Early Head Start, we've added revenue to our part of our grants, and you have to spend some of that money within a timely manner, so we add it to expenditures. So I'm going to give you a little bit of detail by unrestricted and restricted. So in the unrestricted, we really didn't do a lot of changes. It actually went down in expenditures, just reallocations. But in the restricted side is where we added the grants and additional amount from the fund balance of redevelopment money was also booked as an expenditure now to complete the grant project. And so that's what you see in the capital outlay changes. That dollar amount is totally redevelopment dollars to complete the project. And it's a fund that we've already received. It was just sitting in the fund balance, and we moved it to the expenditure line. And this is a pie chart of the expenditures. And then we go into the fund balance categories. So we started the year with $68.8, almost $68.9 million of projected beginning fund balance, and we project, actually it's not projected anymore because we've already closed the year. It's the actual ending fund balance from last year becomes beginning, and the ending that we're projecting is $52.5 million. How we categorize the $52 million is by these categories that are set for us by the state of California. So non-spendable is our revolving cash fund and inventory stores, whatever inventory that is in our warehouses or any of the stores. Restricted side, that's where some of the fund balance sits. Like there's a fund balance and redevelopment money. So we've moved, I just talked about moving $3 million up to expenditures. There's still $8 million towards the other projects that we will not finish by June 30th. They will be finished after that in the summer. And then mental health dollars that we're spending down. If you remember, this number used to be like somewhere over $11 million, and then we put a plan together and we're spending that dollar amount. And all of the other categories, I won't go through all of them, but if you have any questions, please.
Well, I do. I have a question about the lottery. It's been getting a lot of attention lately as being mismanaged from Sacramento. And I wanted you to kind of delve in a little bit to what we get and what we use it for.
So the lottery comes in two different pieces. Our district, I know there's a myth out there that we receive a lot of money for lottery, and that the state does not send in us our fair share. We do receive our fair share. Our fair share is by ADA dollar amount. We receive approximately $10 million. $3.5 million of that is restricted dollars. Those restricted dollars have to be spent on instructional materials. So what we do in our district, we spend them on software licenses. It used to be just books, but it's no longer just books because we get our instruction through digital learning materials. So software licenses now are being spent, testing materials and textbooks for the restricted side. The unrestricted side is approximately $6.4 million. And majority, I have detail if you would like me to go into that much detail, or would you like the big?
The big picture.
Big dollar items are really health assistants, nurses, there's one psychologist, and the rest of it is, there's VAPA extra duty, VAPA field trips, stipends, and then athletic coaches and athletic field trips.
Thank you.
Then we get to the committed. So this is where, as we planned for STIRS and PERS, the reason why we have them in the budget is back 5 years ago when the increases started to happen, the board made it a priority that this is going to be part of our budget planning. And we've done it through the committed category. So there's only $1.2 million to be sent back basically into expenditures to take care of the increases. Because we started 5 years ago, it's all now been committed in our budget, and it's part of our budget planning. There's 1.2 that will move next year to be part of the increases. Now, anything could happen that they increase the rates higher than what they've published. We don't know that, and if that happens, we'll go back to the planning process and we'll incorporate that into our multi-year projection. We've set aside, as part of our LCAP carryover, for textbook adoption, and we've also been manning our deficit spending process. As part of the planning 5 years ago, we wanted to spend down the fund balance in a way that continues to keep us solvent, and so there was a set aside for deficit spending to continue to make us get to a point where we're spending within our means. And then there's the assigned category, assigned by the state. Again, it's for these particular purposes: technology and infrastructure. It was also a carryover that we assigned it for that purpose last year, and medical activities that is set aside to be shared with some of the sites, and we have that set aside. And then equipment reserve, whenever we have anything go deficient, any of our trucks, any of our equipment. And then the unassigned, by dictation from the state, has to be the reserve for economic uncertainties, and the dollar amount there is 21.3. That is 4% of our total expenditures. This is where general fund ends, and then we go into other funds as an ending fund balance. And then we go into multi-year projections, and this is where I wanted to point out that we started to look at that separately, restricted and unrestricted, because we thought that part of the $116 million fund balance that we carried before had a lot of restricted dollars in it, that we couldn't spend it on a lot of different services. So we look at it by unrestricted, and we wanted to bring to your attention, if you remember that last ending fund balance line, we used to have like some negatives in there, if you remember, -7 million or 11 million, up to about 14 million that we engaged in a financial stabilization process, and now we are consistently around the 22, and we're recommending that we continue in that process. And we have that carried forward for 5 years. Now, I don't have the 22 in the 5th year, and the only reason there is the state hasn't published the cost of living adjustment for that year, which would put it at that level in our projection.
So for the public to look ahead and see the way we've budgeted, you would say that we have taken steps to be completely solvent for the next 5 years.
Yes.
Minus the cost of living adjustments, which we still don't know.
Actually, the cost of living adjustment would add to it and makes us better than what we are. Now, I go on record saying that we're stabilized for 5 years, absent an economic downturn by coronavirus impact or a recession that's beyond our expectation.
Thank you.
This is the restricted side of the house. And this is where majority of the dollars were mental health dollars from special ed and the redevelopment dollars for facilities other than Measure O projects. And that's going down to 7 million is our projection if the projects continue to stay on target.
Thank you. Mrs. Lock-Dawson.
Thank you, Mrs. Alvey. I wanted to go back to the our reserve. And you said we are at 4% now, I think, right?
Yes.
And that bottom line reflects roughly, I mean, plus or minus 1% off 4%, looks like, right?
Actually, yeah, 21, 22, actual dollar amount for the reserve is 21,316, okay. And we have 22.2 million projected.
And that's above what the state requires of 2%, correct?
It's double what the state requires.
And then, but they also, my understanding is there's a cap as well, right? That we will get penalized if we exceed the reserve cap?
So depending on the projection of the budget year, if it triggers what they call a test one for the Proposition 98, and I don't want to go through all of the detail for that, but we can have a session on it. it will trigger us going into a cap that the state had put into legislation at the time they adopted the rainy day fund. So in order for them to continue to put towards the rainy day fund, if they stop doing that and it triggers a recession, it triggers a test for that Proposition 98, it will, instead of putting towards that, they will require districts to spend their dollars and cap their reserves. Now, it's possible that that would happen in the next budget year. We are within that already. We will not be changing any of our practices. Our method in Riverside Unified School District and the vision of our superintendent and our board is to spend the dollars on the kids that generated the dollars for that year. If everyone were to do that anyway, with a plan to continue to stay solvent, you don't acquire higher reserves.
Yeah.
You actually spend them methodically within a plan. So I'm not worried that we will have to change any of our practices in the event that is triggered.
Thank you. And then on the STRS and PERS, I remember being part of the group that set that aside because we saw that coming down the track years ago. What remind me again of what percentage did we, or what were we looking at per year? Because we were, at the time, we did not know initially how much. We knew it was going to go up, our portion was going to go up, but we didn't know quite how much. And what did we decide on at the time that we would do annually? Just, do you remember?
For STRS and PERS?
Yeah, like off the top of our, yeah. Because
So-
it changed, I remember, as we moved up, right?
Yeah, so I can tell you, without saying all of the percentages, is that we went from a $20 million bill in our budget to $60 million bill. So we tripled our cost for these particular retirement
Yeah.
systems.
Okay, thank you.
And we are at the question and open discussion.
Dr. Farouk.
Thank you. Just for reaffirmment, the reason we keep citing the 5-year projection that we're solvent for 5 years is because that's just the degree of outlook that school districts are required to take, right? It's not because we're literally only trying to get through 5 years, right?
No, actually, the degree for an average district is only 3 years.
Okay.
LA Unified is only 1. Just kidding. They do have 3 years, but they never get to the third year. Our district is taking an additional 2 more years in order for us to know now any impact on the budget that's negatively, because we're committed to continue to do it in a collaboration that we don't create negative impact on our economy, especially after we know now through the economic report our impact on the community and how devastating for a district like ours, one of the biggest employers, to generate layoffs or create any opposite direction for our economy in Riverside City in particular. But even we actually impact outside of our district. So with that, 5 years gives me and the staff from business services, our awesome Erin and Melissa, that we sit down and strategize and bring recommendation to our cabinet. This gives us an ability to see some things that could happen and start reacting to it now.
And when you said school districts plan for 3 years out, typically otherwise, are you saying all school districts, irrespective of their size, 3 years is the standard from the state?
Yes, it's under Assembly Bill AB 1200.
Okay, and just again to reiterate kind of the economic philosophy of how we're approaching the budget, we doubled our reserve requirement beyond what the state required, but that the reason that we're shifting, the ending balances are shifting towards the 22 million each year is because us sitting on money beyond the doubling of the reserve requirement that we've stated as a board is basically keeping students and the district from being able to deploy those resources for the performance of our children, right? And so that's the reason why we're going towards that ending balance of mirroring the 4% as opposed to just sitting hoarding cash.
Absolutely. And it used to, the requirement for the districts for the reserve, if you're a smaller district, the reserve goes up.
Right.
So for smaller districts, it's 3%. For a district that generates revenue over 100 million, it's 2%. Now, as a district, we looked at it, and when the state started to do surprises, it never did do surprises, right? It never did, the state would surprise us in the middle of the year to cut revenue or to project for the coming year that the revenue will be drastically changing. And because of these things that have happened since the recession, districts that evaluated their fund balance, if we stick to the minimum required, it's only 1 week of payroll for our district. Our district spend on average monthly $38 to $40 million worth of payroll. And 10 million being the 2% reserve for our district would do 1 week of payroll. Why we doubled it, it gives us 2-week opportunity in the event the state issues vouchers or the state gives us a deferral for revenue. We have an ability within that timeline to go borrow based on the state revenue and be able to meet our employees' obligation, dues for their payroll, and we'll be able to wait for the state to correct their actions. So that's one of the reasons, is that gives us 2 weeks opportunity, because 1 week was not enough for us to.
And just to have some perspective in the broader context, what is the general health of school districts throughout California right now?
If I would, I've looked at some data for Riverside County, and we're one of the districts that are on the better than others within our district, because we have already a balanced budget and not needing to be in layoff mode or any cuts to our services. We actually plan to keep our services at the same level. Now, they might be reallocated from one area to another as we do LCAP after LCAP, but in general, we're planning to keep the same level of services. Our districts around us are already making cuts, doing some layoffs. State of California, there's a lot of districts that are actually qualified and negative reports for a second interim report. That has taken a higher number of districts are reporting to the state qualified and negative reports, which means they can make the year that they're in, but they can't make the next 2 years for reserve, that's qualified, or they're negative, they can't make the cash for that year, and they're reporting to the state they will end the year with a negative cash balance. So there is several of the districts that are higher than the average that used to be before. So we are definitely among the ones that have done the right planning to continue to be in a better shape to do any adjustments.
And lastly, just approximately, what percentage would you characterize? Because to be certified with a negative outlook is a pretty extreme situation. What percentage of school districts have been doing that, just approximately?
Oh, that one I don't have
That's
data
fine.
on that, but I can come back
That's
and
fine.
bring
Thank you.
back data.
Do we have any other questions at this time? I'll be looking for a motion.
Motion to approve.
Dr. Farouk, approve motions. Mrs. Lock-Dawson, seconds. Oh, no, you're right. I'm sorry. Okay, before we take action, Ms. Pepper?
Well, this was good timing to have this presentation after the earlier one, because my comment about the other presentation was that you are not a business entity, and you are trustees, and those are legal terms and they have legal meanings. And what happened after I said, you guys, you have a responsibility to husband the money for which you have been given trust by the voters and the people who live in this district to manage for them. And so the comments of the people here and the people who you have hired is, oh no, we're like a business. We're a business because we have to do these things. That's what politicians say in order to justify spending money the way they want to spend it instead of spending it the way they are supposed to spend it. So I wasn't surprised to hear those things about, we're like a business, we have to do it, we have to attract more people. No, you are not actually a commercial business. You are a government entity. Legally, you're commercial. Legally, you're a government entity. You are not a business. These are legal terms. Legally, you are trustees. You're supposed to safeguard the money, not spend it on things you want to do, and spend it on risky things like contracts that could leave you holding the bag for a lot more money than you expected. That's one of the assumptions. You know that list of 9 assumptions? As long as these things all turn out the way we hope, everything will be fine. 9 assumptions are an awful lot of assumptions to deal with and think you're going to be okay. Nobody expected a coronavirus. Nobody expects a big earthquake. There are lots of unexpected things. So instead of going forward and spending all that money on billboards, you should be hanging on to it because you don't know what's going to happen next. So legally, you are not a business. I don't care how many of you say after I finish talking, we're like a business. You're not a business. You are trustees, and that means you have fiduciary responsibilities that you are ignoring. In fact, you're violating them. And that is why the state law about the bond money basically says you are all guilty of a felony if you misappropriate public funds. Public funds, they're called public funds for a reason. You're not a business. You are trustees over public funds. You are not a business. You are trustees. I'll keep repeating it over and over. And you can say what you want, but legally, that's the truth. And you can act accordingly or continue doing what you're doing. And I'll keep coming back, and you can continue to ignore me, but in the long run, and it might be a long run, it might take years, the cows are going to come home. Smile, smile, Mrs. Levy.
Alavy.
What difference does it make? Really?
Your time is up. Thank you.
Thank you.
Okay, now we have a motion on the floor to approve the second interim report. Please vote. That does
Mrs.
pass.
Alavi,
Thank you.
can I just compliment Mrs. Kakish and her staff on all the hard work that they did on this? Thank you very much.
Yes, ditto. Thank you. All right, we are now come to the agenda items for future meetings. Is there anybody who has an agenda item? Anybody? Yes. Did you? I can't, they didn't erase this yet, so what is your agenda topic?
God, this is so crazy. Okay, just a couple things. One is you heard about the Super Peer program at Ramona. I love that. That was Kathleen Sarmiento was the teacher that was sitting in the back. She's in LMFT. I think she's studying for a doctorate in social work at USC as well. But this came up during our think tank process where we did those listening sessions across the high schools, and it was born out of that, and it's been extremely successful. I would like to see the possibility of taking that beyond our wellness centers that were planned, but we've talked about the peer. I know Dr. Roy Shands back there, I think, looked at this very early on, the peer mentoring. So I would love to see that. That's one thing. Two, Mrs. Alavi referred to mandatory minutes of art instruction. We discussed this as a platform issue for advocacy platform at our Arts Now kickoff event. So I think I would like to see a report come back on that as well, if we could see if we can be advocating with other partners in the community regarding that. And then thirdly, I misunderstood the motion that Mr. Lee had made earlier regarding taking comments before an item, and then he mentioned if it was Brown Act. I would like to see that come back as well, because I was a little confused as to what happened there. So would like some more information on that. Thank you.
Thank you very much. Anybody else? I have one item. I would be asking that we put on our agenda something new that's come out called a seal of approval process for STEM schools and STEM programs throughout the district. Utah and Georgia have implemented statewide programs to designate STEM schools, but the program is just taking off in California. In fact, I think Los Angeles Unified is just now looking into it. And I've given the information to Mrs. Carmody, and we will be talking about it, and also how it intersects with our next generation science standards and our science textbook adoption. So maybe we could bring all those science things back at some point in the future. We'll get a little bit of science update. Ms. Pepper.
Thank you. Is it Mrs. Alavi? Did I say it right this time?
Yes.
Alavi? Great.
Yeah.
Thanks.
Thank you.
I'll try and remember to do it correctly next time. So I'd like to see as a future agenda item, and I suspect we won't see it, but I would like to see a serious discussion about which schools are not going to get the improvements and renovations they expected to get if you all continue to spend as much money as you intend to spend on the illegal UCR fake high school. That means a serious discussion with Mrs. Kakish actually doing, serious analysis about how much money there isn't going to be if it's spent on these other projects that the voters didn't approve. This is a serious issue because it's that money that you are misspending that makes what you're doing a felony under the state law. And I think it would be a good idea to have a discussion about it and figure out if you can back out of it now before you go any further or not. And I'm sorry, I have to be the one to bring up the issue about what are you going to do now that Prop 13 didn't pass. None of you brought it up tonight. Not one of you. That's a big issue. And none of you brought it up. It's like, the elephant in the room. But it's a big issue, and you're going to need to talk about it, especially because so many people have been told at community meetings not to worry because you're going to use the state matching funds to take care of their problems, and now it's gone, so what are you going to do? I'm not the only one who'd like to know.
Okay. We will adjourn tonight's meeting in memory of Dolores Lures, who worked in RUSD for 21 years as a principal at Longfellow, Pachapa, Monroe, and Madison elementary schools. Meeting is adjourned.